It's Happy Hump Day right here on 710 KNUS. If you're looking at your watch and if you're on the YouTubes, I am right now. It is the 6th of December, the day before the anniversary of that day that will live in infamy, right here on 710 KNUS. Weather, dang nice today, folks. 67 degrees. Once again, the weather people clueless, like by 10% as to what's going to go on. If you'll remember yesterday, it'll be 60, 61, something like that. 67 degrees, big ball of fire on this pictogram. Tomorrow it drops to 62, partly cloudy, but Friday, yep, break back out the hat and mittens. The prognosticators say we're going to be 30 degrees colder at our high on Friday than we are today. 37 degrees with a bunch of snow. Saturday morning, a bunch of snow down to 35. And then we just kind of meander around. If you'll recall, we were told different numbers earlier this week. We used to have a passionate commitment to trying to hold the weather people accountable. It's just too difficult. And frankly, I'm not sure that anybody cares. What we need to have is a law. I don't want another law. A practice, a rule, an agreement that every 3 months we analyze the weather people from the big stations and from the Denver Post, although I think they rely upon some other thing, but the big TV stations. And whoever is off by the most at the end of that just simply gets let go or put in sports. Or, I'm not looking to cause anyone to lose their home or their ability to take care of their family, but you can't do the weather guy thing like that.
They have to play goalie for the Avalanche for one period.
Or they have to play.
Yes.
The bruising alone from the shots would be outrageous.
That's exactly what we need to do.
That's craziness. Yeah. But anyway, so that's where we're at. I was talking. First off, let me say thank you to you guys. I haven't gotten the final numbers yet. I know there was some excitement by the Step Denver people about the money that was coming in. It was different for us yesterday in a couple ways. One, we got a chance to interview people in just about every single segment, which I really appreciate because, sitting down next to these men, and they ran the spectrum, man. There was no demographic. Oh, yeah. There was no age to it. There was no race. I mean, it was just a bunch of dudes who at some point or other in their lives fell into addiction. And, I'd ask Chris this, one of our later interviews, like how much of this, I thought to myself, how much of this was the product of you started off in the hole, right? Like broken family early on. Maybe you had a drunk dad or mom or something. And I was shocked at how many people were like, no, nothing like that, or it happened later in life. Like for Chris, my God, man, this wasn't, hey, I started drinking in high school and it got the better of me. We did have that, right? We had that.
Oh, yeah.
Chris is like, I'm a super successful cyclist, businessman, all this stuff. And I hooked up with a guy at a party at a thing and I did a rail of Coke and that was it. I'm like, oh my God.
When they talk about that idea of the gateway, we had a lot of those stories
about
what it was and why they got involved. The other Chris that talked to us about when he's doing it as a kid.
Yeah.
And when he's starting
the access he had as a kid is crazy.
It is crazy. And then you're wondering, and there are times in which I'm watching that, listening to the conversation, watching him thinking, how are you not further off the rails? When he's like, I've only got the 3 felony thing, for the 3 auto thefts. And I'm like, wow. And he spent more than 2 decades inside the prison system already. But there were things that he said yesterday. And again, thank you to everybody that donated. When he talked about the idea that he said, I deserve love because of what's here. I'm happy because of what's here.
Yeah, amazing.
That changes you.
The first guy we talked to, Paul, looked like just a dude you might run into in business or out in the mall or something like that. And when I asked him, like, well, how many years do you think over this period of time, you've spent in prison? And he was like, somewhere in and around 25. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And it was for the stuff like stealing cars, which I'm a huge advocate for stopping, by the way. And by the way, welcome to Colorado. But this guy is clearly somebody who is making criminal decisions based on this addiction. And it's why we don't just lock these guys up and throw away the key. You're constantly looking for a way to save their lives. And the other message I got pretty resoundingly was jail can't do it.
Yeah.
Prison can't do it. I mean, that can stop me and sober me up, but that doesn't help me fix me. That doesn't help me get on the long path towards.
Who was the guy that was talking to us about the therapy and the process they had to go through in jail? And you hit on something that was very intelligent, was the fact that he was like, well, I'm telling them what they needed to hear and what they wanted to hear. Yep. What is it I had to tell them in order to game the system? And then they go on, and I think it's the same conversation. The gentleman talks about how the rehab program that he goes through, 50% attrition rate, that most of them just burn out and they don't make it through the program. And then he's one of, and he said probably 2 or 3 that actually are committed. Some of them just went through the motions to get through the program. So, and he talked about the idea of like, it was like 60 people that started and it was less than 30 that complete the program. And he said it is a striking handful of those that went through the program that will even continue to follow what it suggested, to not just use it as the excuse to go back to, letting me do my drugs and everything else. It was crazy.
That is also consistent. I can't remember who it was that said, I did blank because I thought it would impact the judge's decision on sentencing. And that's why I did it. And when that was the motivation, it just wasn't good enough, right? Like it didn't stick. That resonated with me because there was a guy I advocated with Hickenlooper for a pardon, who he must have been 17, was convicted of robbery. Yeah. And I may have even had him on the show here since we've been on Monday through Friday. His name's Wayne Thomas. I love this guy and his story. He is proof that, man, you can turn it around. And it was the same thing for him. Like he said, while I was awaiting my trial date, I went and I got my GED, not because I gave a crap about the GED, but because my public defender told me this could help the judge give you a lesser sentence. He goes, so it didn't mean anything to me. And until it meant something to him, he was like, I was just going through the motions, man.
Yeah. And we saw that over and over again. There was another guy, one of the Chris's, that talked to us that I thought was shocking, that he said that he found this fellowship with the people that were there going through the recovery. And he said, sobriety is fun. That was crazy. Yeah. That was a
you're right.
That was a real opening as far as
Chris was where he was. I think he was one of the band guys with the other Chris guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. And it was one of those things where it kind of peeled back and opened that door, peeled back the onion, opened the door, and talked about what the motivations were and what his core motivations were when he was doing drugs and when he was abusing and why. And this is how he sought fun. And this was his enjoyment. But he didn't realize that sobriety, putting in the work, can be fun as well. It was, it was a sea change out of his life. It's amazing.
I hold open the possibility too, as we're sitting there looking at these guys, and these aren't guys that are 2 or 3 years removed from the program, right? No. Like one dude had been there 2 weeks, 2 months, 4 months. And then a guy that was coming out at 11 months.
The dude that talked about the fact that he tried to kill himself 5 weeks ago.
Oh, I know.
Tried to kill himself, and he's in our age group.
Like, I leave open the possibility that one or more of those guys could fail again.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't like, I've made it to Step Denver. I'm on base. Yeah. I've got this thing licked. They have an attrition rate that is considerable. It's also far less than every other program out there. I mean, they're doing this right, but we have to define right in reality. And that's not like 90% success rate. That doesn't mean anything in the addiction world, right? Yeah. Like, but the people that get through the program stay got. Right. Like they stay fixed.
Yeah. And that was the part, is that this program works. And yes, there is going to be a significant number. Now, not over 50%. It's not that.
No, my gosh,
but it is a large number, that more than you want to wash out. But remember the stories that those guys were telling us, that when you had these programs, that 90% of the people did this or 85% of people did that. A lot of them were sleepwalking through the program. Yeah. They were just there to tick the box. They weren't there to change their lives. And Step Denver demands a change and holds you accountable. It does. That's different.
You said something important there. It's the accountability piece. But what I sense is, every time we're out there, is it's accountability without judgment. Right? This is not about you as a good or a bad person. Yeah. You will be held accountable, but I get what's going on, man. But until you're ready to toe the line, do the discipline piece and all this, we just can't have you here, or you have to suffer this consequence. It's impressive. And then the other ones, the guy that maybe it was Chris again, where I'm like, how hard's the program? He goes, man, it's easy. It's easy. All you have to do is follow the rules. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. It's an amazing sentiment, but that seems to be K2 for some people, right? Like I can't get up over that hill.
Yep, exactly.
I wanted to get into some discussion, of course, of the craziness that is your life as trivia, because once again, you've run into the current district attorney.
Yes,
and the stories you were telling off air were a raging abusive alcoholic. No, I'm kidding.
Yes,
no, that's
I did not think that he could dance to the entire It's Raining Men song, but guy's got stamina.
You know, we should have had him out to dance with Megan when
yes,
she got that.
Yes.
We should next time we're going to have to come up with better stuff. Like, you know how she talked about $100 or $500 will pay for dental care. We should have a different side menu, which is for $2,000. I will blank. And folks, tastefully, let's be honest. Let's
don't tease me. That's okay, because
we could end up raising $1 billion.
No, do you understand where my craziness with this?
No, I'm worried now because we're in the 6 o'clock hour.
You really should be worried. Because
I am.
One of the other things is I'm in the video game community with a couple of games, and one community does yeoman's work raising money for St. Jude. They have yearly streams, and there are events that go on in these content creators. And there is an event that's set up for several days, much like what Alice used to do for Children's Hospital. They've now cut down to like a half day or something. I don't know what it is, instead of 3 days. But they stream, and you have different content creators that come in. What those content creators do is they have that side menu that if we reach this level of donation, I will do this. If we reach this level of donation, I will do this. So I'm just saying, are you attached to your eyebrows?
I'm attached to mine.
Well, no,
but I'm not attached to anyone at Step Denver's.
I'm just saying that, you know, if we get to like, if we get to a certain level, maybe we shave your eyebrows
off.
Dude,
that would maybe have to be a high level.
Maybe we get to another level, and maybe we dye your hair. Maybe we get to another level, and then maybe you and I dress up in costumes.
That part,
there could be a lot of stuff here.
You don't even have to give me money. That's a $10 threshold right there. Just what's the costume that may increase the amount. Like
that's exactly.
George is going to dress like Barbarella.
Yeah,
maybe it's $30. I don't know, something like that.
That chafes a little bit.
Yeah, it does chafe a little bit. Folks, and I've got a couple texts here, and I appreciate this. How do we give? I still think that there's a way to do this. So if you go to Colorado Gives, I think it's Colorado Gives, not Colorado Gives Day.
It's coloradogives.org.
coloradogives.org/StepDenver, and do the Step Denver thing. That's how it gets to them, and that's how they're able to keep track of it. But coloradogives.org/StepDenver, you can still do that. I have not at all talked about this thing that I'm about to mention, only because, and I only want to do it in the 6 o'clock hour because these are the true hardcores, right? That if you're up, listen to this now.
You're finally going to tell us about the new piercing.
No, but I would be willing to get one if this thing happens.
Oh, me too.
Some of you may know that there's a guy named Tommy Tuberville out of Alabama. He is a senator who has been holding up promotions for general and admiral and all this other stuff for a long time over some abortion things.
Yeah, and he finally took a knee.
He took a knee, except for promotion to 4-star general, apparently.
Yeah.
As if to keep saying to the upper echelon, no. I still want something, but I'm not going to hose the rest of the military for it. So 400.
It also shows he's a man of principle, like you said the entire time. Obviously
what a waste of time it's been, though, to hold this up, because this has delayed career and movement for purposes of leadership of organizations. This isn't just like, some 2-star didn't get to pick up a 3rd-star.
No.
This prevents families from relocating to other places to take on jobs that are premised on you have this rank. So it has frozen in place. It's the ripple effects of this decision have been awful.
Imagine if you were supposed to be transferred from Denver, Colorado, and you had to be transferred to Florida, wherever in Florida. But you have to get your kids registered for school. Until that promotion goes through, you don't know when you're going to be able to get there. You can't get those kids registered. There are a whole series of things. What do you do as far as trying to sell your home? What do you do as far as the wife trying to, or the husband trying to find another job?
Getting kids
everything.
In schools.
Oh, it's awful. That's all of it.
This thing happened, and so 425 officers that were eligible for promotion made it onto this list, and it's online and all this stuff. And, to get to the Senate, you got to make it through the House. So the House approved this list a month or so ago. Senate has now approved this list of 425 names. I just happen to be on it. Man.
You are?
So I am now officially promotable to Brigadier General.
Holy crap.
I know, but it doesn't mean anything yet. It doesn't mean anything until I find a job where they will hire me to be a general. That's weird terminology to use, but that is how you picture what happens. Is all that's happened now is Congress has said Brauchler and 424 other people are eligible to be promoted to what that next rank is. And so I feel like I'm probably jinxing it, but man, I wanted to share it with folks. We talk about everything on this show.
So I have a question. So how many people now do you get to kill for free? I mean, is there a level? I mean, is there a menu that you get? At this level, once you get to this many stars and you get the right stuff on your shoulder, then you get so many freebies.
The Jag guy, I'm only able to kill the mood. That's it. I'm not able to actually get a first thing. So
an assault, maybe 2 or 3 free assaults. Is there a card you get? No.
Damn. Okay. I wish, but no.
I'm sorry.
So it could still turn into be nothing. Listen, I don't have a lot of time left on the clock, and it's weird because when you're an 06, that's a colonel, you have 30 years of uniform service before the military, almost without exception. It would be an incredible rarity, but it has happened. Almost without exception says, thank you, get out.
Yeah.
You are retired.
It's weird because it's almost as if the military has decided at a certain point you might be too old to do the job.
It feels like that,
but we don't do that for president.
No, we don't. Well, I
don't know why.
No, we don't. But
it's weird. I'm just trying to draw a little line here.
I'll defend the process in this way.
Yeah.
If you have dudes and dudettes hanging out at that rank, 60, whatever it is, everybody below them suffers because there's less opportunities for them to move up. So this is a way of saying, we want to get you while you're fresh and you're relevant. And oh, by the way, maybe it isn't awesome to have someone who is a colonel who hasn't been serving as a company grade or field grade officer for more than 10 or 15 years. I mean,
baby boomers, are you listening? How about you get the F out of the way?
It's not true. I'm not saying that. That's Billy. That's Billy.
I'm saying in general, because there are a lot of people that are further down the list that are from other generations that, just like George is outlining, are not allowed to get promotions and move up corporate ladders because you won't get your old ass out of the way.
Maybe this is the term limits argument for Congress too, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
So we don't have a bunch of ancient dudes.
And I love the idea that the military is like, well, if we have these older people up here and they're not moving on, then we can't promote the people from within. We can't get the new blood in. We can't. And corporate America goes, how about we keep the old people as long as possible and the baby boomers just keep keeping all the money? I mean, I'm just saying, baby boomers, are you paying attention? You're paying attention that there's another large organization that has figured out this works really well. Maybe you guys should retire.
I think it's still very likely that I end up my time in uniform as a colonel, just retired colonel. But it is an honor to have been put in a position to make myself eligible for a promotion.
Yeah.
I still think it's not going to happen. So much is timing. And I'll give you an example. This should have happened a year ago, right? Like this should have been about a year ago. There are different positions that come open, right? Like it's not like there's an unlimited number of general spots, especially for JAG guys. So in my circumstance, there are maybe 3, potentially 4 that I'd be eligible for. Almost all of them are back east.
Yeah.
Those positions get filled, and then those guys and gals get to hang on to those positions for 1 to 2 to 3 years. Well, I mean, just because I got through the Senate doesn't mean that they're like, oh, General so-and-so, you're now, get out. We got to make room for George. It doesn't work like that. It's so much of it is timing. So, but anyway, I won't talk about it ever again on the radio unless and until I actually get promoted, and then we'll do something special. But I just wanted to share that with you because it got over this last little hurdle. It's recklessness on the part of Congress, but
it's fantastic.
I'm willing to take it.
Oh, me too. That's wonderful.
Speaking of great things, we were going to get back into the trivia thing because, and I didn't see this coming. You had some lulls in and around Thanksgiving where you even showed me a picture, and it's like there's a couple tables, and it's like that you said last night was bonkers.
It was packed, and shout out to John Kellner. Nice to see you last night, sir. I appreciate you stopping by and saying hi. It was good to catch up with him. Still working on possibly the Godzilla trivia, talking to the guy about that.
The worst thing is when you tell me he stumbles up to the table and says, which table is my family? And then you point at, that's the hard part.
Well, it's better this week because previously it was, hey, where's my family? And then he starts singing. And it's just, no, I love him. He's fantastic. So I don't know what was going on in the neighborhood. There was something going on, but we were packed. It was not because of me. They were not coming to see and listen to my dulcet tones. And Lord knows this is not anything that the people that have eyesight want to see often. So
for folks that aren't on the YouTubes or the Rumbles, Billy just referenced himself physically.
Yeah, no, this is not. People aren't going, ooh, got to go see that hot trivia guy. No. They're like, let's go see that guy that might have something wrong with him. There's a medical thing. We're not sure what it is.
Why
but,
might?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're not sure. They're like, it's weird. He seems itchy, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, he keeps scratching at least. I don't know if he's itchy or it's just a nervous tick.
Yeah, what it is. But it was absolutely packed, and I felt bad. I have done more than my share of waiting tables and working in restaurants. I've done several people's shares, and they only had 2 people working last night, and it was probably 13 to 15 tables deep, and that is hard. Yeah. They were working their rear ends off last night, and there were times in which I have about 3.5 minutes between the trivia, and I see them stacking, and I've done this before, and especially at big parties, where you pick the dirty table. There's one table that hasn't been cleaned, and you just start stacking all the extra glasses and stuff on there because you got to seat the other tables. And so this dirty table's piling up, and I'm sitting there going, how much of this stuff can I clear for them? How much? Because that's how I'm wired, and I did this for so long. So afterwards, there were still a couple of tables that were dirty and stuff. So after I cleaned up all my stuff, I went over and I helped them clean.
Oh, look at you.
I picked up all the stuff, but I can't leave that dirty. In fact, friends of mine will invite me over to house parties because they know that 2/3 of the way through the evening, I'm going to start cleaning up. I will start picking up the dishes.
What are you doing Sunday?
Exactly. I will pick up the dishes. I go around. I start collecting glasses.
Oh, my God, Billy, you are the best house guest.
I can't not do it. It's just, I've done it for so long.
And folks, you're not going to appreciate this unless you saw the picture, because I just did.
Oh, yeah. I didn't.
What Billy's describing may be perceived as an act of, I don't know, generosity or something.
No,
it's not. He is assuaging a mental illness that's some version of OCD. He came up to me this morning and showed me a picture of this wonderfully set Thanksgiving table. Like this thing is like on a postcard, or it's on like Norman Rockwell painting, and they're handing the turkey. I mean, it's just fantastic. And Billy looks at it and he goes, can you see what set me off about this picture? And I'm looking around and I'm like, there was a lit cigarette somewhere, or someone left a pile of fake dog poop on a chair. No, he's like, do you see that back plate right there is off center?
It's off center.
And I'm like, what? And he points it out twice. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why? There's no off center, and nobody else on the planet Earth would see that.
No, in
fact, post it on whatever social media you use and say, can you tell me what's wrong with this picture?
What's wrong? No, it's driving me nuts. And it's still, and I didn't notice it until after I took the picture and then didn't go back and look until later. And I'm looking at myself going, it's mad, because if you go around the outside of the table, you'll notice that all of the silverware is a 1/2 inch from the bottom of the table. And the edge of the plates come up, and they're just inside on the edge of the table, just on the inside. It's there's a certain dimension in order to make it look balanced that you have to achieve. And I have set thousands of tables and done them for very important parties and all sorts of weddings. And so that it's what I'm wired to do now. And I can, it's those things that really get me annoyed. I will not tell you how many times I went back and I refolded some of those fan napkins because the fan was not right. I'm like, that's not it. It's
I was honestly, it was like a Where's Waldo thing for me. I was looking for a snake. You know, when you were like, what's wrong with this picture? And I'm scanning and I'm like,
that is the problem.
I can't see it. And you're like, do you see that plate right there? I'm like, nope. I don't see it.
And
I'm like, so now I think Billy takes whatever free time / nap time he had built into today, goes back, resets the table so that he can take the picture perfectly, or he's going to go to some sort of Adobe Photoshop voodoo thing and fix it. So
it annoys me every time I see the picture. It annoys me. I'm like, oh, that's just, it's off center. It's not, to me, it tips the balance of the entire picture. It's just the entire aesthetic is off.
Somebody who clearly has some of your background with the tables thing has just texted in. Why is it that someone will come in, see a sea of clean tables and one dirty, and they'll go sit at the dirty one?
Like, what is that about? They did that last night. You're like, what? It's like, you thought we were expecting you and we made you dirty for you? I mean,
that's so funny.
I just want to know, what is your house like?
Yeah.
What is your kitchen table like? Is it just, you just leave the dishes there and hope the squirrels pick it up? I mean,
I don't want that table, in part because even though they rush over to clean it up, they leave that watery residue with the rag, and you've got to wait a little bit. And I'm like, And
it always smells a little weird.
It's nuts.
No.
Listen, here's the thing, folks. Normally we blow way past this. We've got some good things ahead of us, and that requires me to do more things on the radio than I would otherwise do during this hour. Let me just do a little, is it foreshadowing? Yeah, foreshadowing. So in the 9 o'clock hour, we're going to have Gay Ribble with Empower Home Team at Keller Williams. We've had Gay in before. I kind of hope this is the start of a trend. We had her in a month or so ago. She comes with a whole bunch of great stuff. I hope she'll let us talk with her about the adoption thing that she's so passionate about, that really, I think, drew me to Gay as different than someone who's out there just trying to carve out a place to make a couple bucks. She's just different than that. She's looking to help put families in homes. But then on the side, she's looking to put families together. I mean, I don't know. She's just a great person. And she and that Empower Home team, they're all cut from the same cloth. They subscribe to the same values, the same principles. They've been doing it for decades. If you want someone you can trust, and please don't ever just take my word for it. When you call them, you'll talk with them and be like, okay, I get it. When you sit down and meet with Gay face to face, you'll be like, one, is there a more positive person on the planet or that I'm going to run into today? Chances are the answer is no. She's fantastic. There are 100,000 choices for realtor out there. Gay's just different in all the right ways. So give them a call at 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD, or you can check them out at sellwithcertaintycolorado.com, sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. When we come back, we're going to have all the time that we never, ever, never have to do the Thorpe Report. And there's some things that we should talk about then, too. It gives us a chance to have little side conversations. And then we'll jump out. We'll jump right back in with the best part of the 6 o'clock hour, the most produced, most beloved part of the 6 o'clock hour. Oh, and Billy, we should tell folks, we get texts and, frankly, even the occasional letter. There are folks out there who are just so sweet to write letters, but texts and emails. And I don't want to make it out to be more than it is. It's not like hundreds a day or anything, but we do get them. It feels like to me on an increasing basis where people be like, I love the 6 o'clock hour. When I run into people are like, that's my favorite part of the show. Or if I don't get up, that's the show I podcast, listen to at 6 o'clock. Yesterday at Step Denver, we heard that too. People are like, even the dude who wished I was Stephen Tubbs, even the guy that was like, I'm just so sorry you're not Stephen. I wanted to be interviewed by Stephen.
I know.
I love that guy.
Nice
and maybe it's because my office prosecuted him twice for DUI, but and he talked about that, folks, on air. But even he was like, I love the 6 o'clock, man. 6 o'clock's the best part of this thing, man. I don't know.
That's so nice.
It was so nice. And in large part, it's because you guys have figured this out. It's Billy. Billy makes the 6 o'clock hour work. It has not escaped my attention that the other 3 hours are almost all me and less Billy. And the hour that people love is the one with Billy. So believe me, I have made note of that.
My wife says with me, less is more.
Yeah. Well, I'm not. We're going to have your wife on at some point to help explain some of those aphorisms and the other things that go on at the house. Let's talk about Billy and his snakes, and the ones he gets in the.
Going to bring diagrams and flow charts and oh boy.
I just want the expressions. I just wanted to, that look. I don't know what it is. At some point, we'll get her on. Hey, listen, stick around. We're going to come back. We're going to do the Thorpe Report, and then we'll do a little bit of You Choose the News. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here on this Hump Day edition of The George Show at 710 KNUS. If you're a regular listener, you know that now we'd still be in the first segment of the show, but we're not. Now we are in the second segment of the show. It's the good stuff, all the uplifting news you thought was out there, but now you're going to get in all of its gory, yes. A lot of G words.
Easy for you to say.
And now,
yes,
the Thorpe Report with Billy.
Giving you your news fix. See what I did there?
I did.
Thank you. Okay.
I did. Nice work.
I'm an idiot.
That's so funny.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The winds picked up last night. We get a high wind watch for our foothills, most of the mountains. In Denver, winds are going to be a little bit lighter. Highs today over 60 degrees for both today and tomorrow, ahead of our next storm system that should arrive by Friday. Friday morning will usher in some snow into our mountain area. Could be a few inches of accumulation. At this point, it looks like Friday evening commute could be impacted by the snow. But again, that is several days away. You know how the weather people do it. So we don't know. Today, 68, going to be mostly sunny. Tomorrow, 62. And then supposed to be 40s on Friday, if they are right. Don't hold your breath. A woman continues. Yeah, I know. It's like several days away. I mean, today and tomorrow, I trust them. The outside of that, we're rolling bones. All right. As a woman continues to recover with substantial physical injuries after getting hit by a train while in a police car.
What? Oh, yeah.
Remember that one?
Oh,
yep.
I do.
So the
settlement.
The officer pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor reckless endangerment charge yesterday.
Yeah, it's a third-class misdemeanor, probably probation.
Yeah. So, he had the woman in the car parked there, and now she's got a broken back, traumatic brain injury.
Oh my God!
It's a misdemeanor. That's good.
I still do not understand the thought process.
I don't either.
What happened?
Yeah. It's almost like the back in the Looney Tunes cartoon where you had Bugs Bunny and he was putting like his paw prints down and the dog was following him, and then eventually went to the train, and then he asked the dog, "What are you following?" He goes, "What kind of tracks are you following?" Well, he goes, "I'm following train tracks. We're trying to catch a train." That's what I feel like here. You got off. How did you not see the train tracks? I don't know.
But who stops on train tracks ever for any reason? Like if traffic were stopped in front of you and there were train tracks, you would not pull onto the train tracks and wait for the... You would sit... I'm missing how this happened.
Yeah, about what is it that we had to decide? This is the best place to park. We also have another sad story. Crews searching for a 21-year-old man went underwater while kayaking in Lake Granby Sunday. They recovered his body late yesterday. No. Yeah, it was around 7:30 p.m. Yeah, it's awful. And they had to use a remote underwater operated vehicle in order to find him. The man's family arrived from out of state on Monday when they were notified of his death, and they're going to release the identity of the man and identifying cause later on. Colorado is experiencing an increase in tuberculosis. Yay! Yes, the state has seen a nearly 60% increase in cases compared to last year. So far, 57 cases from last year. This year, 84 cases and 2 deaths. Tuberculosis was on a 10-year decline here in Colorado up until this year. State health department said 8 of the 84 cases this year were in people younger than 18, which is a significant issue. Also, relatives who knew or feared their loved ones were among the 190 abandoned bodies that were found decomposing in a Colorado funeral home, watched in person for the first time yesterday as the owners of the business had to appear in front of a judge. The Halfords, the owners of Return to Nature Funeral Home, evidently they took that too literally, are accused of abusing corpses, stealing, laundering money, forging documents. Lord. I know. And so basically, that's
no respect for the dead.
Not at all. A new sober living home, because of our thing with Step Denver yesterday. It's opening up in Johnstown, offering men overcoming drug and alcohol addiction a place to stay and a community of support. But, of course, the neighborhood and the community leaders are pushing back, saying we do not want them in our neighborhood, which, talking off air to people at Step Denver, that was part of the problem they had, too, when they were talking about expanding into Colorado Springs, etc., is finding the right place. When you're down on Larimer Street, where Step Denver is right now, you're kind of in the heart of the homeless. So there's not a lot of neighbors that are pushing back. But when you get into those sober living homes, that's going to be an issue. And I'm worried about the neighbors not letting our men from Step Denver
that is tough.
Set it up.
So, really speaking of Step Denver, by the way, pro Steph and Andy listening texted in. Hey George.
Hey Andy.
Thank you again to you and 710 for coming yesterday. When I get to step 9 out of 13, when I get to step 9 to make direct amends, I will make sure to reach out for my Stephen comment. Andy from Steph. Andy, thank you, my man. You made it.
You are the best.
You made the morning for us. Thank you.
So nice to meet him yesterday too. Also, unfortunately, we had a barn fire that killed multiple animals yesterday, according to Brighton Fire Rescue. It was on South Adams County Fire Department that responds to a barn at 35,600 Olmsted Street. 3 goats, 3 pigs were killed in the fire. Many of the chickens escaped. And finally, the number of uninsured Coloradans reached historic lows this year. They're enrolling into the Colorado Health Insurance Health Access Survey. Uninsured rates dropped to 4.6% after staying roughly at 6.5% since 2015. That is the lowest level in the survey's history. It's always good when we have more people covered by the insurance, because that's going to, at the end of the result, lower all of our healthcare costs and the bills you're going to get. So that is good to have more of them insured, even though, and I'll get on my high horse, health insurance is a scam, but
it is a scam.
Oh, we do it in a stupid way. That's the idea. The fact that we attach it to our employer is absolutely.
Oh, well, that part I think is dumb. But how else would you do the health coverage thing other than the universal cradle to grave government approach? How else could you do it?
I would actually bifurcate a little bit, and so I would have some governmental support, but I would have a series of private insurance plans that you would have to go out there and you could purchase. I would have a consequence and even a penalty if you did not purchase a private health insurance plan. Yes, I would have a penalty if you decided not to get yourself insured.
Really?
And yes, and only because if you don't cover yourself, you're not like, I'm taking the risk. No, if you go to the hospital and you can't pay your bills, I'm taking the risk. No. If that's how we're going to play this, then no. You don't get to go without the health insurance. So you're saying
change the rules so that we don't have to treat you if you can't pay.
Again, if we want to go that way, go right ahead.
Look, there's something to that, man. Again, as long as you're signing me up for covering your bad health decisions, then all of a sudden I want to have input on those health decisions.
And so there's some ideas behind that, and I just think that we just have decided to do it so inelegantly and so ass backwards that it's again. Understand that at the core, the health insurance company has to make money by not providing health care for you. That's how they make the most money. They derive the most profits if you don't get any treatment. I didn't say sick or hurt. I just said treatment. So understand that this company that you're paying money to cover you during your health issues doesn't want to pay to cover your health issues, because if they do, they don't make the monies. Just understand that the entire system, that how that works in the ecosystem, is a little ass backwards. Normally, if I'm running a restaurant, I want to have lots of people come in to use my restaurant because they make more money. The health insurance, if it was running a restaurant, they would want no customers, because that's how they make the most monies. So that's
no customers.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So, that's the incentive they try to create too. Well, it's a little different than that for doctors when they used to do this per day thing where it was the shorter amount of time you keep people in the hospital, the better. And you'd think that would mean, well, I want to make them healthier more quickly.
Yeah.
No, it's usually just get out.
Just get out. Exactly. That's not the thing. All right. That's all I got, sir. Back to you.
Listen, we got enough time now to cut away for a break and maybe even have a healthy You Choose the News, which gives me an opportunity to quickly tell you about Mitch Flory at the Art of Granite. You've heard me talk about Mitch before. Mitch is that guy who went through the legal immigration process when he was a much younger man from a communist-controlled country, because if you live in one of those, who wouldn't want to come here? And started a family, started a business. It's called the Art of Granite. It is a kitchen, bathroom, finished basement, countertop wizardry shop. I mean, this guy's the Dumbledore of countertop wizardry, and he can make just about any substance, whether it's God-made, the granites, the marbles, man-made, the quartz. He just bends nature to his will and to yours in making these incredible works of art, but also something that is just so functional and eye-catching in your house. Here's the deal. You tell him you're a 710 listener, he's going to throw in addition, by the way, to the already wholesale prices if you say nothing. Already you get wholesale prices. Hey, he'll say, I love the George Show. I love you guys. I'm one of you guys. Let's do this. I'll throw in the bathroom countertop with the kitchen countertop package. Just throw it in. Or if you're only doing one room, he'll throw in the sink with that countertop package for you for free. All you got to do is give him a call at 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919, or check him out at theartofgranite.com. That's theartofgranite.com. When we come back, You Choose the News. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNULX. Did I seem to be drinking cough syrup when I came in? Like a lot of it? I have no idea. 710, and I'm pretty sure the letters are KNUS. For a moment there, I thought I was having a Biden moment. It's time for You Choose the News.
Yes, sir. It is that time of the morning where we get to play everybody's favorite radio news game show. You Choose the News. Yes, we have scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really stupid stories, giving them even dumber headlines to play this fake radio news game because they continue to pay us for it. And the check clears. And I don't know how.
Thank
works,
goodness.
But, thank God, yeah. All righty, sir. Here are your headline choices this morning. Headline number 1, they're called priorities. Headline number 2, is it wrong to keep it a secret? Headline number 3, where does he think he got it? And headline number 4, it's a feature, not a bug. All righty, your choices yet again are, they're called priorities. Is it wrong to keep it a secret? Where does he think he got it? And it's a feature, not a bug.
It's a feature, not a bug.
Yes, it is a feature, not a bug. At least that is what Panera Bread is saying at this point after they are being sued for a second time. This is unfortunate, but Dennis Brown of Fleming Island, Florida, he has an unspecified chromosomal deficiency disorder. He's 46 years old, has a developmental delay, and a mild intellectual disability. He lived independently, frequently stopping at the Panera near his house after his shifts at the supermarket. And recently, one of those trips killed him.
What?
Yes, 46-year-old Dennis Brown consumed 3 charged lemonades during his visit to Panera on October 9th.
You died from lemonade. What
the charged lemonade is infused with a lot of caffeine.
Okay.
In fact, 390 milligrams of caffeine per.
Uh-oh.
He had 3 of them. He has an emotional and unspecified chemical disorder, the deficiency. And basically, it raised his blood pressure, and he had a cardiac arrest.
Oh, my God. How old's this dude?
He is 46. Yeah. And this is the second time someone has died, allegedly, after consuming the Panera charged lemonades. Remember that adults are supposed to have around 400 milligrams of caffeine a day. You get 390 in 1 charged lemonade. And Dennis had 3.
Buddy, this feels a lot like it's going to be a new TikTok challenge, like the Tide Pods, but it's like, I'm doing the charged lemonade.
Oh,
man.
I know. All right. Oh, hey, someone's raising the door. It's going to be the deputy chief. We'll get to her in a second here. This is going to be awkward because she has a gun. And okay.
Yeah, and I don't think she understands you're on the radio.
No, and I'm in the line, and I'm in the line of fire. So, okay. This is what else. They're called priorities. Is it wrong to keep it a secret, or where does he think he got it?
Priorities, please.
They are called priorities. We are traveling to the lovely state of Florida for this one, specifically chatting with Governor Ron DeSantis. He recently unveiled his budget, and he is going to eliminate more than 1,000 state jobs in his spending proposal and cut more than $4.6 billion from the budget. His grand total budget is $114.4 billion, and one of the most important priorities is giving $1 million to let Florida State University sue the college football playoffs because they didn't make it to the championship. And all I'm saying is, let's say that you're one of those. Let's say you're one of those 1,000 people in Florida where Ron DeSantis is like, nope, you're fired. But we're going to give the sports ball team money to sue the college football playoffs because you wanted them the playoffs. And you're like, $1 million? You couldn't keep my salary for a year?
Couldn't we just follow a theme? Load up the whole team on a bus and ship them to the NCAA headquarters, and just drop them off there and let those
just let them sleep there and
protest. Let them figure out what are you going to do with this team now.
Exactly.
We were going to go to a bowl. Now what do we do?
Yeah. Are you done with those chips?
Oh my goodness.
All righty.
Fantastic.
And your final choice this morning, is it wrong to keep it a secret? And where does he think he got it?
Where does he think he got it?
Where does he think he got it? This is odd. We're doing 2 political ones this morning. Here we're visiting Speaker Mike Johnson. Yesterday, he revealed that House Republicans are going to be releasing more of the footage from the January 6th Capitol attack, but he said it's going to take some time because they need to, quote, blur some faces of persons who participated in the events on that day because we don't want them to be retaliated against and to be charged by the DOJ.
What?
Yeah.
Say that again?
Mike Johnson said he is blurring the faces of the people in the January 6th riot footage because he doesn't want them to be persecuted, retaliated against, or charged by the Department of Justice.
Oh, wait.
Where does Mr. Johnson think he got the tapes from? Who does he think gave them to him? Does he think that this is like Walmart security footage? I mean, where does he think the tapes came from?
It's like blurring the picture on a mugshot because you don't want the cops to know who they arrested.
Yes.
Nope, already been there.
Exactly. And he says he wants the American people to be able to draw their own conclusions. He doesn't think partisan elected officials in Washington should present a narrative and expect that it should be seen as the truth. Have you been paying attention to politics? That's kind of what we do now. We just make up a story, and that's what the politicians do.
Well, speaking of making up story, and we missed the advertiser again, so that's just money left on the table. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Aurora Police Deputy Chief Heather Morris. Get your questions ready. She doesn't know it's coming. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. This is hour 2 of 4 for us on the hump day, this 6th day of December 2024. We get Charlie Kirk at 10, Dennis Prager at 11, at 1 it's Seb Gorka, 3, and he's doing such a fantastic job. JS, that's Jimmy Sengenberger, and then from 4 to 7, we go with Officer Brandon Tatum, and I don't know why we keep calling him officer. I think he was a cop for about 15 minutes 100 years ago. But nonetheless, that's the thing, Brandon Tatum Show, which is doing really, really well. You ought to pay attention and listen to some of that in the studio right now. Although, and you don't have to hear any of the other stuff, Chief. We have in the studio, monthly, we have Chief Art Acevedo from the Aurora Police Department, second largest police department in the state of Colorado, in here. He got scared after last time, and it was apparent he made a little pee-pee when he left here because we got super aggressive with the questioning. So this time he is sent in to take all of the barbs. Deputy Chief Heather Morris, thanks for joining us, Chief.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Now, did Art tell you that this would be a potentially career-ending move?
He did not discuss that particular point.
Just like a good boss. You know what I mean? Like, go stand out there in the middle of the road. No. I don't know if there's traffic or not. I appreciate that. Chief, thanks for joining us. Can we do this before we start talking about the nitty-gritty and the substance of what's going on the streets of Aurora? Want to get to know you a little bit better. Now, you have a touch of an accent. I feel like it's probably French.
You're close. You're really close.
Is it?
It's Texas.
Oh, I've heard of Texas. Yeah. I've heard a lot of people say mess with Texas or something like that.
Yeah, don't.
Oh, don't mess with
mess
Texas.
with
Don't mess with
Texas.
Texas.
Like,
It's
yeah.
hard because the accent makes it tough. So that must be, wish I had known that. I would have stopped messing with Texas a long time ago. What part of Texas?
Actually, I grew up in Houston, the greater Houston area.
Now that's Harris County. And when you were growing up, at one point, it was the murder capital of Western civilization. But it's changed a bunch, and largely because you decided to go into law enforcement.
Well, I hadn't thought about it like that.
Yeah.
I need to put that on my resume.
Somebody said, yeah, I turned the corner. Tell us, did you go to high school out there?
So I did go to high school. I went to Pasadena High School in one of the suburb of Houston.
What was your thing in high school? Like, did you do sports and stuff or other band or debate or anything like that?
I did schoolwork, and I studied really hard, and I was on the drill team.
Okay.
That was my sport.
Yeah.
So, on the
Cool.
dance drill
So
team.
in your family, do you have law enforcement, or do you remember even back then growing up thinking, I'm going to do law enforcement when I get out of this? Or how did you get to hear from there?
So I do not have any law enforcement family in my family tree.
Mhm.
I was going to say family again, but that just
yeah.
didn't sound right.
It's okay. We do that all the time here.
And I never had thought about a career in law enforcement. Never, ever thought about a career in law enforcement. And I think I talked about this before, but I kind of fell into it. I kind of stumbled into it a little bit when I was 6 months pregnant and deciding I've got
like all
so
6 months pregnant
married,
women,
had a
I want a
baby.
gun. Yeah.
So I got married. I had a baby. I was pregnant with baby number 2, and I was like, I gotta get a job. Like, I've got to get a job, and I've got to get a degree. I can't get a job without a degree, which I look back now and I'm like, that just is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that makes no sense looking back. But at the time, it made all the sense in the world. So I'm looking. I'm like, what interests me? Well, I loved a good mystery book, and I loved a good mystery show. And so
Crime.
I come across this criminal justice degree option, and I'm like, oh, this is it. No thought to what I was going to do with that degree. It was I was going to have it. And so the very first criminal justice class that I took was a criminal procedure class. And I'm sitting in this class. I'm 6 months pregnant, not little pregnant, but big pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody in the class, they're just trying to get their college hours because they want to be police officers.
Really?
And I'm like,
where was this?
This was at San Jack Community College in Pasadena. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I still remember how embarrassed that I felt being in that class.
Because you weren't.
I did not want to be a police officer.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't want anybody to think that I did.
Yeah.
And so I finished this class. It's a criminal procedure.
Yeah.
And when I left that class, I was like, it was all I wanted to be. I was like,
wow,
this is me. Like, I found out who I am, exactly what I want to do.
Whoever taught that class, have you ever reached out to them and said, hey, you just need to know this class got me launched?
I did not.
Yeah.
And
were they prior police, prosecutor, just a regular professor type?
It was really not so much the instructor. It was really the course itself.
Okay.
Because it was a procedure class.
Yeah.
And so it showed me that law enforcement is not just a free-for-all.
Yeah. Too bad.
Right.
But yeah.
It's not a free-for-all, right? There's rules, there's laws, there's policies that you're going to have to follow to do the job. And so like, this is me, I got to do this. And so it was a struggle at first, because even though I was a grown woman paying my own bills and had my own family, I was like, I can't tell my family I want to do this.
So how do you break it to him? How do you come out of the closet on this?
Yeah. So you know what? You just got to do it. You just got to bust it open. And so it was not good. It was not good.
Were you holding your infant daughter at the time that you announced, I want to be a police officer?
So by then she was probably 1,
okay.
2, right? Because I had to get my degree. So I had to get my
right.
degree, right? I had to finish up with that first. So it was probably a year and a half, maybe getting close to 2 years before I was like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to say my dad was really mad.
Oh, wow.
He was really, really mad. And
what did he want you to do? Just something
something else. And so he was extremely, extremely mad. And let me tell you what he told me. He said, what makes you think you can do that job?
Oh, interesting.
And it was so I was so taken aback that I was like, wow, because I know who I am.
Yeah.
And I know this is gonna be amazing. And so it was really hard. It was really hard to hear that from him. It was really hard. And he's since passed away. But I can tell you that there's nobody be more prouder of me.
Oh, that's great. So he came around. So he came around. You proved it to everyone, yourself included. And then he came around and was like, I get it.
Yeah. And it really wasn't until later, like if he could see me now, like where I was at. And so he actually passed away before I promoted to captain in the Houston Police Department. In the Houston Police Department. And I was like, he would have.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a great story. You were at Houston PD for your entire career up until this reckless move to Aurora?
No. So I started at Houston PD in 1999.
Okay.
And I was there 17 years before Chief Acevedo came in as the chief. So I like to say that he worked with me in Houston because I was there 17 years before he got there. Right. And so whenever, so I actually, while he was there, I'd already had a patrol command.
Yeah.
And did that for a couple of years, almost 3 years. And so right before he came in, I was transferred to robbery division. So I was the robbery captain for the Houston Police Department. And just short of a year later, I was transferred to the Internal Affairs division.
Where you made all friends.
I did. I had a lot of friends. And so that was quite an experience because when I was first approached about that move, my response is, I'll go wherever y'all need me to go. But internally, I was like... That's
the kind of reckless decision of someone who's, I just want to promote.
Internally, I was like, dude, they don't know that I don't know anything about internal affairs at all, right? Yeah. And so, but it took me about a week. It took me about a week getting in there. Like, okay, I got this.
Really?
I got this. I got this. Yeah.
How long did you do internal affairs?
So I did that for almost 2.5 years.
Okay, great. And then what happened after that?
So I did promote to assistant chief after almost 3 years.
Was Chief Acevedo still there?
He was there. And when he left and went to Miami, he offered me the deputy chief position in Miami.
Oh my gosh.
And
is assistant chief in Houston like deputy chief somewhere else, or is that just one of a number of different not chiefs?
So assistant chief would be similar to the division chief here for the Aurora Police Department, and it would be assistant chief in Miami. Okay. Similar to that, the assistant chief level. So it'd be equivalent to the deputy chief position in Aurora.
Yeah. Got it.
And so it really was an easy decision, but it was a hard decision. It was a hard.
So did you go?
So I went
to Miami.
I went to Miami.
I heard it was nothing but fun.
It was a joy. It was joy. The Miami Police Department is there's so many great people in the Miami Police Department.
I'm certain of it. I'm certain.
100%. And so that's difficult because there's mixed in there is all the bad stuff. And a lot of that's coming out in terms of what was going on in the city now and with the $63 million judgment against one of the...
That's a lot.
But my understanding is he's paying it back. Yeah. Garnishing his wages.
Right. They'll get that back.
They'll get that.
Is sometime in the next millennium. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it was easy. It was a hard decision because I had, there was security.
Yep.
Security and friends and opportunities for upward mobility that I still had.
How long had you been at Houston then when you made the decision to go to
I left at 22 years.
Oh my gosh.
About 22 years. But it was easy because I had seen where the department was when Chief Acevedo came in.
Yeah.
And all of the work that was done when he was there. And it was it was like a 180. It was a very stagnant department.
Yeah.
And the leadership and just people being able to step up and be leaders and just the 180 that the department was when he left. And I wasn't ready for him to leave. I was like, we still got work to do.
Yeah.
Right. There's always work to do.
Yep.
And so I wanted to go to Miami and help him do the same things in Miami.
How long did you guys do the Miami thing before that whole thing imploded?
So I want to say, I mean, he had been there several months before I came over.
Okay.
I want to say it was about 4 months.
Oh my gosh.
And so when I came in, it was 6 weeks after I got there. And then my position was written out of the budget by the commissioners.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That can't have had any impact on you or your family.
Zero.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kidding. The politics that existed in that department and frankly, outside the department impacting it are incredible. And it's something that I should ask, do you feel any of that in Aurora? Is it different or are there some parts of it that are the same?
So it's completely different.
Yeah.
It is completely different. Every department has its challenges, but the Aurora Police Department is nothing like the corruption and the issues that were in the Miami Police Department and in that city. There's
that, by the way, feels like it's a generational project to change that. Like you can't just come in and in 1 or 2 years be like, oh, I've cured the problem. I mean, this seems like this has been an institutional issue for them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That didn't start overnight, and it's not going to be solved overnight.
Yeah, that's tough.
But pieces, there's things happening there and that haven't happened before. So even the $63 million
that's something. That's on the road.
Judgment. That's something. And then you have one of the city commissioners that's been charged with some crimes, and that's unusual, as well. So you got some pieces falling, so yeah. But
speaking of the city commissioners committing crimes, who are you guys targeting in Aurora right now in the city council? No, I'm kidding. I'm totally joking. You guys just swore in some new people.
We've got a great city council. We just set a new city council, and so I'm really super excited about the council members and the it's Stephanie Hancock that just got elected.
Fantastic. Yeah, she's such a positive, upbeat person, man. Ridiculous.
Yeah, a spark. She's spunky.
She has a lot of energy, man.
Yeah,
holy
I like
smokes.
it.
Yeah, she's great. We had her on the radio. I was so happy to see her pull off that victory because that's another difference maker for Aurora.
Yeah.
So Chief Elsa, your position gets written out of the budget 6 weeks later. Wow. What did you do? And then why did you follow Art over here when he's like, hey, are you ready to try this again? Were you like, what the?
So what happened in Miami really was no fault of his.
No,
it was not his.
I know.
And so I actually ended up, from the time I mentioned the 6 weeks, by the time that actually took effect was another 2 weeks. So I was there 2 months. And so I had not made the transition to Miami. Now I had an amazing condo, but I had not cleared out the house, and my family were still in the house there. And so I went back to I went back to my house in Houston. And so what I did for a little bit, I thought, I'm 50 years old and I'm retired.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
That's so awesome.
It sounds awesome.
And I had been to so many retirement parties for officers, and a lot of things I would say to them was like, I'm really jealous, which I was sincere about that.
Yeah.
I was sincere about that. And because I was like, if I was retired today, I would have no shortage of things to do. And so day one, I'm like, I start out like this, and I'm like, where's my friends?
Yeah.
Oh, they're all working.
Yeah.
I had nobody to play with.
Right.
So it was a little bit tougher.
Couple days of lunches. Let's go grab lunch. Yeah.
It was a little bit hard. Well, it was a lot harder transition than I thought. And so, okay, after a couple months, got some stuff done around the house and stuff like that had piled up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not ready to be retired. I'm not ready.
Yeah. And
so I started looking for some different opportunities. And after a couple months of doing that, my husband, Philip, got diagnosed with kidney cancer.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Dang.
And
that's an impact on the family.
Absolutely. And so it was tough, right? It was tough. And I knew that if I got a job, that he'd be left dealing with this cancer all on his own. Like it would be all on him. Like, dude, I'm not here. I'm working. I got to be at this.
And
I gotta be at that.
how old are the kids at this time?
So my baby's 23 right now. So everybody's grown. So that was.
I'm not good at math, but you guys in Houston start early. What were you, 12?
I was not 12. It was
not that. That's.
I was actually 22 when I had my son because I have a 30-year-old son as well.
What?
Yeah, I have a 30-year-old son.
You guys start early. Congratulations, by the way. Self-sufficient. They're out there paying taxes. Thank you for doing that.
So I have a 27-year-old daughter. She'll be 28 here in a couple of days. And she just got a real job. Woo! And I'm so excited for her.
That's
I'm
so
really
cool.
excited for her. And I'm even more excited for me.
But I get your point. Now you're like, well, wait a minute. With the 2 adult kids and all this, he literally would be by himself. He would be doing this all by himself.
He would be doing this all by himself. And I just couldn't do that. When you look at life and you go back and you look and you sometimes you move so fast that you don't think about some of the things. And I knew that this would be one of the things that I would be looking back later on and being like, I left this man to deal with this all on his own. And I could not do that.
And I don't want to get all faithy on you, but do you look back at what took place in Miami? And I've had certain things like that happen in my life too, including when my mom got diagnosed with brain cancer back in the 90s. And I'm like, was this God's way of saying, this isn't where you need to be right now? Like, you need to be closer to home for this reason.
So, and I am a person of faith. I think that we don't always know why. Well, I know we don't always know why things happen, but everything happens for a reason. Everything happens.
Sometimes those reasons are God hates you.
Sometimes you just don't know why God's putting you somewhere.
That's absolutely true. In fact, I'll bet you most times we think we know, we don't really know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I would not undo that.
Yeah.
Like I would not, if I had to go back. Now, obviously knowing how it ended, that's different. But I have no regrets about retiring from Houston and going to Miami. Now, I love the Houston Police Department. I had nothing to leave for. There was nothing to leave for. There was no reason to leave within the department itself. And however, I have zero regrets. I have zero regrets because you regret the things you don't do, the opportunities that you have that you don't take, and then you're wondering how would that have turned out. Now, obviously, if I knew ahead of time this position was going to be written out of the budget like that, I'm like, yeah, I'll stay.
Yeah,
thanks,
I'll
right?
wait.
I'll stay.
Yeah.
But so my husband diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
And I stopped looking for work because I'm not gonna be able to do that. And fortunately, the kidney cancer that he had, everything was like, all the doctors like, if you have to have cancer, this is what you want to have. Like, this is
what a crazy thing to hear out loud.
Where it was located, right? Where it was located, and
amenable to treatment.
The treatment was surgery, and so he had the surgery, and really when he was at the end of the recovery from the surgery was when Chief called and said, hey, I'm here in Aurora. I knew he was in Aurora, but and would you consider coming out? And so I came out, I talked to people and did some more research and here I am.
What's your husband doing now? Is he back in Houston? Is he out with you?
Like physically right now, he's probably at the apartment playing Call of Duty. If I had to guess.
That's post-kidney cancer stuff. That's doctor's orders.
This has been going on for a long time, this Call of Duty. And so he's killing some folks over there.
Getting out his, I get the frustrations. And then that brings us to here, where you're here. What I want to do, if you have the time, and since you're physically captive here, and you're the only one with a gun, but you're physically captive here, can you stick around and we can do another segment or so with you? I'd love to do the whole hour just getting to know about you and Aurora.
Sure.
Since it's maybe the most consequential city in the state of Colorado, and it has the potential to be so incredible. And I'll ask you how you guys are going to get the Broncos out to Aurora, because we're all tired of driving in there for the games. We'd love to have SoFi Aurora if you could make that happen.
Yep.
Listen, I didn't ask you for permission to do this, and I never do it with Art, but he's always game. If folks wanted to text in or call in with questions for you about your personal life, no, I'm kidding, about Aurora, would you be willing to entertain those questions?
Sure.
This is, the difference too is, Chief, you're here without anyone from the PIO shop here to protect you from yourself. So that's also, Art, if you're listening, she's got guts, man. This is clear that she's in here all by herself. Go ahead.
I have an escape plan. I'm just going to fall out. Like if you just see me like.
Yeah, that's it. Fake some sort of medical issue.
Yeah.
Like what about Bob? Hey, we're talking with Deputy Chief Heather Morris for Aurora PD. Thank you for coming out here and doing this. When we come back, it's going to be you and me and the chief and all of your questions. I just can't cut away yet. I was saving this one for Art. We have a fantastic group out there called Advanced Hair Colorado, Advanced Hair Treatment Colorado, and they are the ones that help you get your old, young, natural hair back. For Chief, he's got great hair, but it's probably not as great as when he was Ponch on Chips. Do you know what I mean? These folks will help you get back to your Ponch days. All you got to do is check them out at advancedhair.com. The hair is not the rabbit. It's HAIR, advancedhair.com. Dr. Tanya Pauls has been doing this. She's been doing it so long, she's like making guarantees, folks, that other folks just don't do. This isn't like, let's see what happens. This is, I will tell you exactly what's going to happen, and then it does. If you call their number right now, that's 720-459-HAIR, 720-459-HAIR. She'll also give you $250 off and 250 free hair grafts to start you off. And the folks that have done this thing that I've run into are like, buddy, it's instant. The minute they start doing this, you can see the difference, and it just keeps getting better. Join them at advancedhair.com. When we come back, it will be you, it will be me, Billy behind the glass, and Deputy Chief Morris from Aurora PD, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, just trying to do a through the glass introduction while doves cry, and so does Mark Crowley, to introduce Deputy Chief Morris to Mark, who is our former DPD guy. Chief Morris, thanks for joining us here. I appreciate that and sticking around. It's a mistake, and I think you probably don't realize that yet, but this podcast will live on in infamy. If you thought you were going to end up with a future career anywhere, I'm sorry. But we left off with you coming and joining the team here. How long have you been in Aurora now?
So I came over in April. So we're looking at 8 months?
Yeah, 8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it would only be perfect if you came over on April 1st.
Well, it was April 3rd.
Oh, well, maybe you were in transit on the 1st, and we can count that right there. What are your I should have asked you this too. I meant, how big's Houston PD, where you were the assistant chief?
It's 5,200 officers.
Holy smokes.
It's a beast.
And how many do you have in Aurora?
So we're authorized 748, about 750 were authorized, but we're down about 110 officers at this point in time.
Now, I've talked to Chief Acevedo about this, but I'd love to get your perspective. Why are we down? Is that different than other departments in the area, in the metro area, or even in Texas? And how do we fix this thing?
So recruiting and retention, that is a national issue across all departments.
Okay.
It really is. Now, are there some departments out there that are fully staffed? Absolutely. But it is a common issue. It's not particular to the Aurora Police Department at all. And there's just a lot of different things and a lot of different expectations now. And so we're really doing things a lot differently. And so, we've got to work harder to retain people. And some of that comes with being competitive financially in terms of pay. We got to make sure that we're keeping that up. And what are the other different options and things that we can do to retain people? So is it time off, additional time off?
Right.
Is it wellness options? Is it just, so we always have to be looking for different things like that to
Getting
say, hey,
rid of
what
the
can we do?
patches on the uniform. You don't know this, but there's a history with the patches on the uniform. It was a Dan Oates thing.
I have heard this many, many times.
Right,
I've heard this,
right.
and I have experienced in Houston when we changed uniforms that it was a big deal.
It's such a big deal.
We took the life away from some people.
Yeah, right.
We took their life, and some people we didn't take their whole life, but we took
the happy
time off
parts.
of it. We took parts of it that won't come back.
Uniforms matter.
They matter.
For some reason, they matter.
I love this patch.
Yeah.
I love this patch.
Well, it's here to stay now,
Yeah.
but it's just going to continue to be a joke until everyone retires who was there when they didn't have them, you know? So you're looking at making these changes. Those things, some of them seem internal, but some of them also seem like you need to get the blessing of the city manager or the city council. How cooperative are they with this process?
We have a very, very cooperative and relationship with city council in terms of, it is a priority for city council and the city manager that we retain and recruit people for the police department. It's a huge priority because crime is a big priority for the city and combating crime. And you can't do that as well when you have less people. When you're not fully staffed, that's less things that you're able to do. And so it is a priority, and we have a lot of support from council and the city manager.
When you're out there for these 8 months, I don't know how you take on a new department. I just don't know how you slip in at the level that you're in and start to get to know that. I'd love to know how you do it, but too, along the way, what are you discovering about the job challenges beyond morale and retention recruiting, but the actual performance of the job? What are the challenges when it comes to crime in Aurora?
So in terms of coming into it, officers are a lot the same.
Yeah.
We think the same. We're a lot the same. There's some differences in terms of terminology,
accents,
but we are a lot the same. And so it wasn't walking into something I didn't know.
Yeah.
So it was really just figuring out the different pieces and the different terminology, culture, and exactly how we're doing the things here. And so that was that, and that's still ongoing.
Yeah.
That's still ongoing. But it's actually kind of fun too, because it's different. It's something different. And so there's obviously things that I can bring and different ideas that I can bring here, but there's also, it's not just about bringing something here. It's about saying, hey, this has been my experiences. how does that fit in here? And some of those pieces, like, no, that doesn't fit in here.
Yeah.
And you know what? This does fit in here. We should be doing this. And I've completely forgot the second part of your question.
It was going to be, what are the challenges on crime? But while we're here, at the risk of costing you whatever limited credibility you have with the listeners, this past Sunday, there was a football game between the beloved Denver Broncos and a team called the Houston somethings, Oil Rigs or something.
The high school team? Are you talking about the
I believe it's
Texans? The high school team?
Who did you root for there?
So I did. Well, let me just back up a little bit. Let me back up, and I'm going to win this. I mean, this is when you hear my answer, you're going to be like, "Where did she? She pulled that out." Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys.
You were also disappointed. Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys. They played Thursday night.
Yeah.
But that's my team. The Dallas Cowboys,
how
my
do
team.
you grow up in? You should have been an Oilers/Titans fan or something like that, right?
So the high school team. We still talk about the high school team.
Yeah.
You know why San Antonio will never get a professional football team?
No.
Because then Houston would want one.
That's a great line.
Right.
That's a great line.
My husband says all the time. I don't know where he got it, but
yeah, that's a good line.
Yeah.
Probably from Call of Duty, but
it probably was from Call of Duty. It probably was. So yeah, okay. I remember the Houston Oilers. Oilers, and it was actually kind of comical because maybe comical is not the right word, but the owner of the Oilers wanted the city of Houston to build a stadium.
Yep.
And Houston said, no, we're not going to do that. So he took the team to Tennessee Titans. And then we immediately started building a stadium for a team called, for the Texans.
And I appreciate that you struggled to remember what they're called. That tells me this is legit. You're not just saying that to curry favor with the listeners. Thank you for that. Although the Cowboys thing, it's close to saying you're a Raiders fan up here, but not that close. Not that close.
Come on. This is America's team. Cowboys are America's team.
Texas doesn't even claim to be part of America. They're their own republic. So it's kind of hard for their team down there to be that.
It's actually kind of funny because when I talk about being a Cowboys fan, that people kind of look at me sideways and I'm like, well, how would you be a Cowboys fan?
Yeah, how does it happen when you're
I start off with like, well, first of all, it's America's team, so we all know that. I mean, that's legit.
Owie.
And then secondary is my husband grew up in Dallas. So it's funny. See, exactly. Your reaction was the exact like, oh, okay. So that's how I get my ability to right. That's like,
he was born
okay,
into it. He can't help it.
Right. So
yeah. So when you're out on the streets, now that we have gotten rid of that thing, and I appreciate that because I'm sure a lot of folks out there were like, OMG, was she rooting for CJ Stroud, the whole thing. And now we don't have to go down that road. Yeah. On the streets, man, what is plaguing Aurora right now in terms of crime? And maybe plaguing's too strong of a word, but what's happening out there?
So there's a lot of stuff that's happening out there. And the big thing is our violent crime. Now, I'm going to say this. Now, we're actually in Aurora. Our violent crime is steady going down. We're a little bit up in homicides at this point in time. But for this year, we have steadily been going down in our violent crime. However, it doesn't feel like that. And there's still a lot of violent crime out there. Well,
that's a great question. Why does it feel differently if the numbers show otherwise? But what is a little bit up in homicides? What does that look like?
We were up 2. We were up 2 over last year.
So over the course of a year, like last year, how many homicides in Aurora?
So I was just looking at this and my mind's a blank.
You look like one of the Broncos coaches.
I did.
Right now, just staring blankly at how do we answer this? When you find out, let me know. Yeah. And when you are counting something as a homicide, are you just counting murder, or do you count things like vehicular homicide, like road deaths, or something other than a first or second degree murder?
That's going to be separate.
Okay. So when we're talking homicides for purposes of this conversation, and we're a little bit up, you're talking about murder.
I am talking about
Okay. All right. Well, when you find out that number, let us know. But tell me why you think it feels like there's more violent crime if the numbers are trending a different direction.
Because there's a lot of bad stuff happening out there. There's a lot of bad stuff that's happening out there. And what we're really, really trying to focus on is, well, besides all of violent crime, is our youth violence. Our youth violence, we have so many crimes out there that when we get down and we look at it, it's like it's a 13-year-old. it's at the 14-year-old. And so whenever I started in law enforcement in 99, when I was working the streets, it was really, it was like 16, 17-year-olds and adults.
High school.
Yeah. And so what's really been weird for me is just the number of 13, 14-year-olds, that younger teenagers that are committing violent crime out there. They're out there with guns. And so it just, when we have anytime we have a homicide, it just, even if it's not a homicide, it could be somebody getting shot. We hear about it and it just feels bad. It's just, even if it's one.
We're talking with Chief Morris here from Aurora PD. I guess my question is this, and some folks that are pretty conservative station, listen to this, follow this. We just changed our laws to say that nobody under the age of 21 can have firearms, rifles, handguns, the whole thing. Where are these kids? And they're kids, they're middle schoolers. My God, 13, 14 is 7th, 8th grade kind of stuff. Where are they getting these firearms?
So they're getting them from anywhere. It could be a firearm that their parents own or some other adult owns in the house. It's getting it from purchasing it out there on the streets, getting it from friends. Anywhere you can possibly imagine that somebody could get a gun, that's where they're getting it.
How much of this is the product of stolen guns? Like, there are folks we know break into cars or houses just looking for guns.
Right. And so that's why it's really important to not leave your gun in a car, even when it's locked, because whenever somebody breaks in, now they've got a gun. And so one of the things that we do is we've got a really great partnership with the ATF. And so whenever a gun is used in a crime, we're picking up the shell casings. We're picking up the shell casings. We're doing the whole NIBIN thing, we're doing all of that. And we're connecting these guns and seeing where they've been, who's owned them, and all of those pieces come together. So even if we get to a scene and all we have is shots fired, we have nothing else. We have no victim. We just have shots fired. Our officers go out there. They're going to pick up the shell casings if they see some, and we're going to have those analyzed, and we're going to see. We'll have a location of where that gun was used. So we are doing that. That's a piece. That's a piece of our response to violent crime, is connecting all these guns.
We are talking with Deputy Chief of Aurora PD. That's the second biggest in the state, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. I realize we're just Colorado and Texas is much bigger, but it's the second biggest police department in the state of Colorado, behind Denver. And then I think Colorado Springs is somewhere a distant third or something like that. But it's a huge deal. Let's do this. If you can stick around, let's cut away for a break. Couple questions here about recruiting and some other stuff that are on here. But I would love to ask you about some of the other things that are hot button issues in the news right now, including immigration, the homelessness issue, where Billy and I, on an almost daily basis on our way to the station, pass by at least one encampment, they seem to pop up as quickly as you guys encourage them to disperse and go away. I don't know what the end is, but I'll ask you about that if you can stick around. You can stick around?
I can.
Such a huge mistake, but I love it. I love the recklessness. Listen, before I cut away, though, I got to tell you about something you need to do before Christmas, because they have a package that's undeniable. It's called Beau Visage. I've done the Beau Visage thing. They're a spa, right? And they do the facials and the scrubs and the massages and all the other awesome stuff you would expect from a spa. They got this guy right here in a chair to do. I had a choice of things I could do. All right. And the massage thing felt like maybe I saved that for Vegas or something. But nonetheless, I went in there. I said, I'd love to do the facial thing. It was so nice, so relaxing. I fell asleep in the chair as they were scrubbing away months of abuse and poor personal hygiene. Imagine what they can do for that special someone in your life. Doesn't have to be a woman, but tends to be like a mom or a wife or a girlfriend or a daughter or something like that. They will love this thing at Beau Visage Skincare and Spa. And they have a super cool half-day package where you can put a bunch of these things together. There's a catered lunch. The whole thing is awesome. And it's an experience. You're not giving some other material thing that sits on a shelf or doesn't get used or ends up in Goodwill. No. It's something that they get to enjoy right there. And that experience lives with them forever. 303-779-5002. 303-779-5002. Or check them out at BV, that's Beau Visage, BVSpa.com, BVSpa.com. When we come back, we'll wrap up the hour with the chief and you and me and any of your questions. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Final minutes with Deputy Chief of Police for Aurora PD, Heather Morse. You were busy trying to get to the bottom of these statistics on the homicides and all the other stuff. Any good news?
So we have 38 year to date.
Okay.
And that
feels like a lot, but you're telling me it's not that different than it was last year.
It's not that different than it was last year. We had 36 year to date last year, but we are expecting that at the end of the year, because we had a couple of incidents at the end of the year last year. We at this point in time, we're expecting to finish the year with less homicides than we had last year.
Okay. All right. So whatever happened last year between now and the end of the year, you don't think it's going to go that badly?
We don't think it's going to go that badly.
We had some texts in here about what do you do when you guys arrest illegal immigrants? Where do they go? What happens to them?
So the Aurora Police Department does not enforce immigration laws. We're not a sanctuary city. And once we turn somebody over to the detention center, any immigration issues are worked through the detention center, not the Aurora Police Department.
Do you guys even keep that information or track it? I remember when I was a young prosecutor in a jurisdiction to the west of us here, just to the west of Denver, it was routine that even during bond arguments or sentencing, we would know. We'd be like, hey, there's an immigration hold, or at the time, INS was doing this, or ICE would do this. Do we even collect that information anymore?
The Aurora Police Department is not collecting that information, and we're not enforcing immigration laws either. And so we want everybody, regardless of how they're in this country, to feel safe coming and reporting crime to us, because if we don't do that, then we just have more victimization.
And the criminals win.
And the criminals win because they know, hey, we can victimize these folks over here and there's nothing they're going to do about it. So we do not enforce immigration. We don't ask about it. And regardless of your status, we're going to come out, we're going to answer the call, we're going to work a case and try to get to the.
But they don't get any special treatment either. They don't get treated differently. Okay. And I think that was the gist of the text. Chief, I've got maybe 25 seconds I can give you to wrap up for this segment. We're going to have you back, by the way. You may end up having to be the permanent replacement for Art. Who knows? But what would you tell folks out there listening?
I would just want to say that the Aurora Police Department is a really great department, and we are recruiting, and we're always looking for folks. One of the things that whenever I came here, I've realized just how proud so many of these officers are of this department. And so I just encourage anybody to, if you thought about law enforcement, the Aurora Police Department is a really great department to be.
Always be selling. ABS. Always be closing. Try to get the more cops in. I appreciate that. Deputy Chief Morse, this has been fantastic. We'll have you on again. The time flew by. Flew by? It's the cough syrup.
It's flown.
Please don't watch me drive out of the parking lot. It's George Brauchler. We're going to come back with Professor Micheline Ishay. We're going to learn about Israel. Dude, I am having a Pete Boyles moment. Brauchler back with you halfway through the Hump Day show. That means every minute from here moving forward is a minute closer to the weekend for both you and me. I'll be doing the show live from up in ski country, Colorado, both tomorrow and Friday, and then back in the saddle, of course, on Monday. My thanks to Deputy Chief Heather Morris. I thought that was a great first time in studio. She left here in tears. No, that was Billy. But she seemed also a little affected by the great time that we had on the radio. Before I get into our next guest, and we're going to get updated, of course, by, I want to say it's our unofficial official in-house expert on all things Israel. That's going to be Professor Micheline Ishay from DU Korbel International School. We'll get to that in just a moment. I've got to do something here because in the holidays, we get great opportunities to tell you about wonderful things you can do for others that like Step Denver, but you can, or Bow Visage, but also things you can do for yourself. And QC Kinetics is one of those things. QC Kinetics are the folks out there who do the regenerative medicine. That's putting a needle in you, taking out the good stuff and putting it in the places where there are bad things, like the pain in your joints, whether it's your knees or your hips, lower back, neck. These folks have been there and done that. All you have to do to get made smarter about how they do what they do so that you don't have to be tied to just pain pills or sucking it up or going under the knife for a surgery. Nobody wants to have surgery unless it's to put in calf implants. And Billy wants to do that later this week. We'll see about that. Other than that, nobody wants to go under the knife for surgery. QC Kinetics gives you that alternative to find out whether it's the right fit for you. I say go to their website, qckinetics.com. Q, that's a letter. C, that's another letter. Kinetics.com. But I say call them. They got local medical professionals. Quiz them. Try to defeat them with your questions. Try to stump them. And then when you can't, sign up for them. Get that treatment. Get the pain relief you deserve to start off 2024 right. It's 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986. Going right to the VIP line right now. Thank you for your patience and your time, Professor Ishay. Thanks for joining us again.
Oh, my pleasure. How are you?
I'm doing okay. First off, I don't know if we've talked to you since Thanksgiving. How was it?
Too short.
Yeah,
almost too short.
It was too short. Can we get updated from your perspective on all things Israel? Since we last spoke, there was a ceasefire, and it was temporary, and it's over now. But talk to us about what went into the decision-making for that. And when I ask you that question, I don't know if Israel gave in to the ceasefire because they thought it was actually the right thing to do. There was tactical advantage to it, or if this was pressure being placed upon them by the United States and other supporters. How did we get there?
Yes, so the ceasefire was negotiated both by the intermediaries such as Qatar, and one of the proposals, the pressure was not just the United States. There is a big movement within Israel that wanted to see hostage released, Israeli hostage releases, of course. So the government was under enormous pressure to do so. And the result was that the government of Benjamin Netanyahu was to provide 1 day of truce for each 10 hostages. There was another force within Israel, certainly within the military, that was concerned about that releases of hostage because it felt that every day that was ongoing, they were losing leverage and capacity to organize in order to dismantle the Hamas military base. So that was the tensions within the Israeli government. What went on was that only 81 hostages were released, Israeli hostages, 24 foreigners, and 40, I believe, Palestinians from Israeli jails were released in light of that ceasefire. Then Hamas ended up balking by not providing the number of hostages that was sufficient, and that was the Israelis were concerned about the time that would be lost in making sure that the war could be speedy. And in the perspective of the Israeli government, there was this question whether there would be more deaths on the Israeli side and even on the civilian side in Gaza that will occur as a result of delaying the resumption of the war.
Talk about, if you would, Professor, that thing you mentioned where Hamas balked. Like, had they made an agreement with Israel for the release of a specific number of hostages? And if so, what was that? And then what did they end up doing to release?
Well, they balked because we all know that those hostages are the lifeline of the leaders of Hamas. They know that the moment they release all hostages, they will actually, nothing would stop the IDF, the Israeli military defense, from attacking full-fledged the sites, the military sites. So for them, there could be an exit road. There could be an effort to release additional Palestinians from Israeli prisons. So they wanted to pace the process, and in the same time also to gain certain military advantage by regrouping in the south of Gaza. Sorry.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, so this wasn't completely unexpected that they would do this. I have heard from folks in the past that when things like this happen, that either, they end up releasing less hostages, different hostages, or even dead bodies back to Israel. Is all that stuff true? Is this something that could have been predicted?
It was predicted. It was very much predicted. That's the reason why the Israeli government requested sequentially and with no delay, every day of truce would be amounted to 10 hostages. Then we had delayed, and there was discussions about 8, and then there was no one, and then but less. So yes, that was definitely expected.
So the war is back on. There has been a lot of focus, and you've probably felt it and seen it here, a lot of focus on this growing movement for a permanent ceasefire from the people that are pro-Palestine / Hamas, and the impact that might have on Anthony Blinken, our Secretary of State, and the president's willingness to stick in this fight. Are you seeing any cracks in the support from the U.S. or lessening of support from the U.S. for what Israel's doing?
Well, the ceasefires, yes, there's a growing support not only in the United States and in the rest worldwide, also in Israel for different reasons. There is concern. The Americans are very concerned that the Blinken as well as Biden, that the war and the level of casualty and the suffering of Gaza will turn against his own administration as he prepared and he planned for his own campaign. And so it's not a surprise when Kamala Harris went to Dubai and Qatar is really demanding for real curtailing of casualty, civilian casualty, and has made other conditions to make sure that the Israelis do not stay an occupied force the day after. So that was sort of, the Americans are very concerned about that. And though they did not, they supported a temporary ceasefire, they also at the same time have shown full-fledged support to the Israeli government in their resumptions of the attack against Hamas in South Gaza.
What is your sense then of if there is a timeline before you think that things will turn much more bleak for Israel in terms of support, both from the U.S. and the world? How much time do they have left to do this? And would Israel, in your opinion, ever accede to those demands? Or do you think they're like, listen, this is a matter of an existential threat of sorts. We're going to press on. So sorry you won't be with us.
Okay, so with respect to the timeline, ideally, and I think we talked about at the very beginning of coming to your show, that I had just half-jokingly said that it would be ideally on the American side best to complete it before the holidays. Well, it happens to be not far from what the United States wished to see happen. And so they think that perhaps January, at the very least, things could pivot and turn in the wrong directions if the war continues. So there is a timeline in that sense, and a lot of questions from the American, for sure. With respect to whether it's feasible, it's a very difficult situation because the Israelis are still attempting to dismantle the three main, just attack and kill the three main leaders of Hamas and destroy all the military infrastructure in South Gaza City, while at the same time trying to protect as much as they can, which is difficult in this war circumstances as many people as possible. So the ideal would be, from an American political perspective, certainly, or at least Biden political perspective, to end the war at the, as early in January or the end of December. Will that happen? Unclear. With respect to the Israeli government, we know that Benjamin Netanyahu is not in full control of his government, and certainly not of the war cabinet. There are a lot of contending forces. The extreme right still wishes to not only just to continue the war, but never to see a Palestinian state coexisting side by side Israel. Other factions within his government are more amenable to have a conversation of that sort. And Benjamin Netanyahu is really fighting for his political survival, and knows that by catering and playing and favoring the extreme right's position, it will just last longer. So very difficult to tell you that it's a unified position at that point. And so that's the reason why perhaps the American public is not seeing any clear discussions about the next phase.
Is this a situation, and by the way, it's difficult to imagine somebody more unpopular than Bibi Netanyahu at the moment. Is there a situation in which you could envision him being replaced before the end of hostilities in Gaza?
Very difficult to say. You're correct. He's just about 18% of the population support him, even among his former supporters. So will he be replaced? It depends. Now it's the crux of the most intensified part of the war. So I would presume that he would not be replaced at that point in time. Israeli can do a vote of confidence. They like to do vote of confidence in parliament. So very difficult for any leader to stay more than 2 or 3 years in power in Israel because of the famous vote of confidence and because it's a system based on parliamentary system. So it may well happen that there'll be a vote of confidence. I think it's a bit too early. Maybe in February, those things could happen. There are discussions currently on the Israeli side about forming a much broader coalition, which would bring erstwhile enemies, such as one of the parties that was very much significant in making sure that Bibi Netanyahu will not return to power was Lieberman, and he is currently not very much. Doesn't very much like the religious radical zealots on the other side, but he's discussing with, at the very least, with Shas, which is a religious party. And so what you see in Israel right now is growing efforts to broaden that coalition as a way to just perhaps oust Netanyahu, and also because the war brings those sentiments where people find some level of consensus after the attack of October 7th.
One of the reasons that Netanyahu may be so unpopular, and by the way, from the layman standpoint, the not Israel guy standpoint, it feels like he has been around since the parting of the Red Sea. I mean, this dude has life after life after life politically, like he has been there. If they could take a picture back in the day of Moses, it wouldn't shock me to see him in the background. You know what I mean? Like, this guy has just been around forever. But part of the reason for his unpopularity is this revelation, and it's kind of earth-shattering here, that Israel intelligence was in possession of this kind of an attack plan by Hamas for over a year. What is going on with that?
Yes, was a revelation that shocked many Israelis and others, knowing that the planning, with the detailed planning and as it unfolded, was in the hand of Israeli intelligence. What people had said, and we will know more after the investigation committee, is that they thought that this was an aspirational plan and that the Hamas did not have the capacity to sustain a plan of that sort with that scale. So again, a failure of the intelligence not understanding the capacity of Hamas military. So yes, but there will be a committee of investigation which will figure out why that was not taken more seriously. And along the way, other things were not taken seriously. So not just whistleblower, but people who were warning weeks before that it was about to happen, and then higher command or higher level of intelligence refusing to take that seriously.
How does this thing get leaked out? I mean, I presume it's a detractor of Netanyahu's or someone who's opposed to sort of what happened. I mean, this feels like the kind of thing where it's top secret and now all of a sudden it's not top secret.
Well, as you can imagine, there's a lot of enemies of the government and Benjamin Netanyahu. Many see him as the culprit in that war, because even among those who did not like so much Hamas, they think that he could have stopped that war by just simply preventing the attack of October 7th. So I'm not surprised. I don't know how it was leaked, but I do know that I'm not surprised if it was, because of the amount of enemies that he has succeeded in galvanizing.
And we're talking with Micheline Ishay. She is the professor out there, knows all things Israel from out at DU Korbel. When you look at the aftermath of this, Professor, do you see this providing support for a Hamas-free Palestine that could get its two-state solution?
That is a difficult question. This is the goal of what the Israeli government attempts to do. And when I said the Israeli government, it's not just the Israeli government. In fact, in my interviews of people from very progressive peace activists to the very right, there is a consensus that even among those who are really pushing for the ceasefire, that there is absolutely no way that they want to coexist with a Hamas government. So that goal does not change. Will they succeed, and at what cost, is really the bigger question. And the second point, would it exist? Well, I think that what needs to be done is to start what the Biden administration is doing, to talk about a peace process. But there are challenges to that effort, and one of the challenges.
Are you saying that we should stop that process, Professor? The peace process?
No, the opposite.
Okay.
A military solution never succeeds. You always need a political solution to end the military operation. It never succeeds. So the peace processes have to be at the forefront of the American administration's effort, in the sense that, but there are challenges, and one of the challenges is not just the military operation, it's not just the public opinion, but it is also restoring the Palestinian Authority, which has been really delegitimized, not only by its own people, by the Israeli government, and certainly under Benjamin Netanyahu. So the only partner for peace, which is seen not possible, is the one that needs to be strengthened. And in fact, what's interesting is that the Americans now are trying to just pressuring the Israeli government by making sure that there will be a de-escalation with respect to the violence between settlers and Palestinians in the West Bank, to create some form of legitimacy for the Palestinian Authority to take on the mantle and unify the Palestinians after the war. I think that this is the right approach, even if Palestinian Authority is surrounded by other voices and supported by Arab League or Arab countries. I think that that's the only solution, because there's no other solution.
Do you have, Professor, any increased concerns based on what you're seeing about Hezbollah up in Lebanon? We also know, by the way, that there were some ships in the water out there being targeted by the Houthis out of Yemen. Are you concerned at all, more than you were the last time we talked, about intervention from others outside of Israel in a negative way?
This is a very good question. Currently, there's been exchange of fire, as we know, as of yesterday, today, between Hezbollah and Israel. And the Israelis tend to have been a little bit complacent about that, thinking that they can just ask the Israeli population. 500,000 of people have been evacuated from North Israel, nearby Lebanon. I think there is a complacency. I've been trying to think about the rationale of the attack and the rationale of the leadership of Hamas. And it seems I wouldn't be surprised if there was a certain front that will start, in the south of Lebanon as a result of the intensifying fight between Israeli and Hamas in the South Gaza City.
So when would you expect that? And is that Iran motivated?
It's always Iran motivated in a way, you could say.
Yeah.
It's because they are providing, what is necessary for Hezbollah continue the ceasefire. But I think that I can't. Nobody knows exactly what Hezbollah is going to do. Whether they'll be curtailed, whether they would just do not wish to discuss, or there is a small chance, but still one that should one should keep our attention on that Hezbollah would be maybe on a third last phase attempting to create a major distractions for the Israeli defense by just pulling many of the reservists to fight on the northern front as a result of what's happened. So it's speculative, no corroborative documentation on that. So I want to just make sure that that's understood.
Hypothetically, if a radio host had an opportunity to travel to Israel in the latter half of January, is that a good thing, bad thing, safe thing?
So far, we have there are rockets that are still launches from Israel from Gaza to Israel. I think if that very radio host does not mind to go to shelter here and there once needed, then it's probably fine. The war is definitely moved to Gaza, and unfortunately with enormous loss for Palestinian and Gazan. So if that radio host is interested in that, I think that it would not be too difficult a proposition if he likes those type of adventure.
Listen, I'm not a stranger to shelters nor the alarms that occasion you to throw on your Kevlar and body armor and run underneath them. So I have done that before, run into those things. I just wasn't expecting to do it if I go to Tel Aviv. Is Tel Aviv in that same? Are they relatively safe?
Currently, yes.
Currently.
Currently, yes. Well, you love also chili, so I have to.
Yeah.
So currently, yes, it is possible. If you're an agile person and you don't mind, you probably will be fine. Restaurants are still open, half of them, but there is an atmosphere of war currently. One would expect and hope that by mid-January that will not be the case. So I would just advise that radio host to be to listen carefully to his own show and see how things evolve.
Billy, let's make sure we get the professor on about mid-January, just for no related reason, just in case someone needed that kind of an update. Professor Micheline Ishay, thank you so much for your time and your expertise again on this topic.
My pleasure, really. So
if we don't get you back on before that mid-January potential pre-trip oh, she's back in 2 weeks. Great. I was going to wish you happy Hanukkah, but I think we're going to get you maybe even before that happens. Hey, thank you so much for this.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Love those conversations, man. I just love having the ability to ask questions about these things that I'm constantly thinking about, just like you, when you're out there watching a 30-second news story or the stuff in your feed. I love that. Something else I love and someone I enjoy having access to are the best minds out there in the legal world. One of those, when it comes to civil trial stuff, Dan Kaplis. Now, I don't know what Dan knows about any other area of the law. I don't, because the guy has spent a career becoming an expert in civil law and fighting for victims in the courtroom. So if you went and asked this guy about, I don't know, real estate law, contract law, it wouldn't shock me if he knew something about it. But that's not why you call Dan. You don't call Dan for it. You call these other silk stocking big law firms for that. If you need someone who is a trench fighter, skilled in the art of hand-to-hand combat inside the courtroom, that's when you call Dan Kaplis. You need someone to stand up and fight Goliath the way David did with the 3 smooth stones. That's when you call Dan Kaplis. And I'm talking about taking on insurance companies and companies that don't want to make things right for you when someone they're supposed to cover hurts you. So negligence, recklessness, sometimes intentional conduct. Pick up the phone and call Dan and Baber Wahid, who is his partner, also equally skilled. He's just younger. They don't always look that, but he's definitely younger. Give him a call at 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or check him out at dankaplisLaw.com. That's Kaplis, C-A-P-L-I-S, dankaplisLaw.com. When we come back, Aurora City Councilwoman Danielle Jurinski. If you haven't heard about this story, folks, you're going to be shocked about what she just happened to discover about what Denver is doing to Aurora. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Got to do a quick promo for you about Roll 'em Out Shelves. Brent and Joyce Tolliver, that's the son. Joyce, of course, is the mom. Have this fantastic company called Roll 'em Out Shelves that does exactly what the title says. I love that. You may not know what Twitter or X is by the name, or even Kleenex, but Roll 'em Out Shelves, you know what they do. They do high-quality shelves that roll out of your existing cabinetry, whether it's in your kitchen, your garage, your laundry room, bathroom. You got a cabinet, these folks make it better and more usable. It's like upgrading your laptop or your television. Yeah, there are still a laptop and a television, but they're 8 billion times better. The satisfaction, crazy. All 5-star reviews. Impossible to imagine, but not impossible for Brent and Joyce to pull off. All you have to do to get the benefit of frankly, their imagination on how they can make things better in your home. Have them out for the free, analysis of your home. They'll check it out. They'll give you an idea of how they can make things better. You can give gift certificates for this. Think about that, giving that to someone that you love. Maybe it's mom or dad, maybe it's son or daughter, but make their house even better. You can book your free in-home estimate today. Call them at 303-475-9601, 303-475-9601, or go to Roll 'em Out Shelves, M-as-E-M, rollemoutshelves.com. Go into the VIP line. It's Aurora City Councilwoman Danielle Jurinski. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, George.
Hey, we just had Deputy Chief of Police Heather Morris on. She was great. Have you had a chance to meet her?
Oh, yeah. She's wonderful.
Yeah, she had a lot of great things to say about you too, but I wasn't sure if she was just making it up. So I wanted to prove that you actually knew each other. Listen, she told me a story about something that I had just seen come across my news feed the other day. And that is, you discovered that our sister city of Denver here next to Aurora is doing some funny business when it comes to the immigration stuff. Talk about what you discovered and how you discovered it happening.
Sure. So this past Friday, and I want to preface this with saying it was 40 degrees outside this past Friday and then snowing on Saturday. I received a call from one of my employees, and he and his husband and their service dog had been living at this extended stay motel, the Quality Inn on Abilene and Mississippi in Aurora.
Oh, yeah.
For almost a year. And I received a call from him, and he was pretty much fighting back tears.
Oh, no.
And he said, Danielle, we've just been thrown out. And I'm standing here, and the city is busing in migrants. The buses are here. They're busing in migrants, and they've taken over the whole hotel, and they've kicked us all out. I said, what do you mean? And who's us all? He said, it's roughly 40 families. There are pets. There are children. There are elderly, some of whom had lived there for up to 3 years. And I said, the city, I thought Aurora immediately. So I started making calls to our city manager, to some of my colleagues. Well, come to find out, it's the city of Denver. Mike Johnston is over there in Denver beating his chest that he is going to champion, housing 1,001 homeless people, and he's going to champion the migrant situation. When, in fact, George, what the reality is and what I discovered, he thought he would get away with this very, very quietly. And I'm sure it's his worst nightmare that an employee of mine, of all people, was affected by this because I'm not letting this go. And he's over there beating his chest in Denver that he's going to champion all this and he's going to house 1,001 homeless people and all these migrants. And he's not. He's pushing the problem off into neighboring cities, and he's trying to do this very quietly and very sneakily.
Well, I presume that the city of Denver reached out to the city of Aurora and said, hey, we'd like to do this. Just want to give you a heads up. This is coming to your city.
From what I understand, a heads up was given to Jason Batchelor, our city manager, and to Mike Kaufman, our mayor. Both say that this was not what they were told. They certainly didn't know that residents of Aurora were going to be displaced over this. They were not told it was migrants. They were told it was going to be homeless, and it was going to be temporary until Denver could figure out what they were going to do, how they were going to do this 1,001 plan and bring these people, back to Denver. So there's some conflicting stories there about what Aurora really knew.
Is there the part I don't get, Danielle, is why did the Quality Inn, the extended stay place, kick these other people out in exchange for the immigrants? Like, what did Denver bring to bear in their negotiation with this extended stay motel to get them to say, yes, we would like all of you immigrants to fill up all of our rooms, and we'll kick out whoever's here now to do it?
Right. Well, I wish I knew that. Kyle Clark did a wonderful story on this last night, and he said, Kyle Clark said, what did Denver think was going to happen when they showed up flashing cash? So, I don't know how much they promised. I have no idea what the deal is behind this. This is very hush-hush. Like I said, they thought that they would very quietly pull this one off. But like Kyle said, what did they think was going to happen when they showed up flashing cash? Of course, people are going to be thrown out of their rooms. Of course they are.
Do we know how many families yet got evicted here, or not evicted, but you know what I'm talking about, displaced?
Well, what my cook is telling me is that he believes it's right around 40.
Holy smokes.
Oh, yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Denver is saying, that's right. Denver is saying they believe it's approximately 25 families. My cook, again, who'd been there for a little over a year, he's saying it's about 40 families.
Oh, wow. Real quickly here, Alexa, who's a longtime listener, big fan of yours, by the way, texted in, hey, if Danielle is doing any kind of a fundraiser for her employee, for your cook, please let us know and put it out. And some folks out here would love to find a way to contribute to that.
I really appreciate that. As an update, the regional manager from the Quality Inn is trying to scramble, as they all are, to stay based here. They called my cook Sunday evening. They called my cook, hey, we are so sorry for the mix-up. We'd love to. Yeah,
that makes it sound like it's like, did we just kick people out? Who knew that was going to happen?
That's right. That's right. Who saw this coming? We are so sorry for the mix-up. We would love to have you back. We'll give you and your husband a week's free stay, and then you can have your weekly rate back. None of this ever happened. No big deal. Gang's all back together. The problem is, George, I don't know where these other displaced families are. I'm only able to help Joe and his husband because I know them. I don't know what happened to any of these other families.
We're talking with Danielle Jurinski, Aurora City Councilwoman, who has discovered something here that was pretty nasty. By the way, your discovery of this, is that what, in your opinion, led to Kyle Clark's piece about this? I mean, did anybody know about this before you brought light to it?
Nobody knew about this. I started making some noise about this, making some calls on Friday.
Unbelievable. You are the fly in the ointment, Danielle. I mean, on so many different issues. Are you concerned at all that somebody from Denver is going to call up Human Services and make up a complaint about you? Because, I mean, every time you bring light to a situation, somebody targets you. Jesus.
I know. George, I think at this point, Human Services wants nothing to do with me.
That's a great point. Next up, the IRS. Somebody is going to come after you. Every agency that can get their hooks into you is going to do it after this. You said Quality Inn reached out to your cook and was like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry. We had no idea. We kicked you out. Has anybody, you included, talked to Quality Inn to say, why did you do this? Why did you do this to these people?
I have not personally been able to speak with anybody. I asked my cook to respond to an email just saying I would like this in writing, that my husband and I get to come back for a week free, and then we get our weekly rate. No funny business. Let's get this in writing. And my issue is what I would like to find out, and nobody can seem to answer this for me, but and maybe it's blurred, very blurred lines, George, but yes, they are a private business, but these people have established residency. So I'm just, how they were able to be put out. They all showed up on Friday. That's when they go pay their weekly pay, their weekly stay. They showed up on Friday thinking they're going to pay their weekly rate and go back, to their room and call it a day. It's freezing outside, 40 degrees. And they're basically told, bye-bye. No notice has to be given. I just am beside myself over this one.
These folks that they displaced them for, that were bussed over there from Denver, do we have any idea? Are they in the country legally or illegally? Are they on refugee status or whatever the term is we're now using to let everybody and their mother in through the southern border?
Well, Mark Salinger from 9 News, when he came out to interview me yesterday, he told me that he spoke with some of those migrants and they showed up in the country 5 days ago, George.
What? Are they, but do we know, are they part of this visa program where if you just tell anybody I'm from Venezuela, you get in? Like, how do you even check that, right? Like, what?
Right.
Is it one of those
no
things? Or are these people that are just drifting around the country?
My guess is they're drifting. That's my guess. Just seeing what I'm seeing, Marsha Bergen, former city councilwoman, just called me right before I hopped on the phone with you. She said that yesterday, and she lives over near there, in Ward 3 part of Aurora. And she said just yesterday she was driving home from running some errands. So she decided to pull in over there and see what was really going on. And there was people laying out all in the grass, all in the rocks, people just in the parking lot hanging out, people walking across Abilene there. Traffic was having to slam on their brakes to stop. I don't think they're here as any part of a program. I think there's no accountability.
Look, once again, it feels like in Aurora gets victimized by these policy decisions all day long. When Denver makes bad policy decisions, everybody around them suffers as a result of it. So if Denver wants to invite all these folks in and try to displace Denverites in exchange for them, I think that's totally fine, right? Like, they voted for that kind of leadership. Aurora did not vote for this outcome. It's pretty offensive.
It's extremely offensive. And like I said, it's absolutely Mayor Mike Johnson's worst nightmare that somehow I ended up involved in this situation.
I think that's becoming a recurring theme. You know what I mean? Like Danielle Jurinski, your worst nightmare. Bum, bum, bum. I don't know if there's a cape that goes with that, but
George, the people voted for me.
I know, and they're going to do it again. They're going to do it again. I'm telling you, whenever that comes up. Listen, I want to cut you loose to go do the other great stuff you're doing. Can't wait to talk to you again about an update on this. If you have one to share or know of a way we can help the displaced people, would you please let us know?
I sure will. Thank you so much.
This is Danielle Jurinski, Aurora City Councilwoman and fly in the ointment / your worst nightmare. I can't thank her enough. She's always so great to just stop what she's doing and hop on the air. Listen, got to cut away for a quick break. I want to tell you very quickly about Ultra Botanica. You just don't know that name. What you know is Ultra Cur, and that's you with the umlaut over it. Ultra Cur, it's a curcumin-based, all-natural supplement. This thing is a health enhancer. It's an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, all good health stuff, and it's for free. Yeah, a 3-day sample of it is for free at your natural grocers. Go to see the vitamin manager. Got to see the vitamin manager. Can't find it in there on your own. Got to see the vitamin manager. Ask for your 3-day free sample. When you get it, you start taking this thing. Billy and I did, by the way, and you're going to experience something positive. I know that because within 2 days, that's 48 hours, 50% of everybody that take it feel that kind of relief that quickly. Half of that group within 2 hours. Can you imagine anything better and freer and easier to do? Go to your natural grocers. Check them out at getultranow.com. Getultranow.com. When we come back, we'll wrap up this hour in the 9 o'clock Gay Ribble in studio. Loving it. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. That's going to do it for the 8 o'clock hour. I'm excited for the 9 because we're going to end up having Gay Ribble back in here. Gay's such a great person. We'll get to know more about her and the real estate world in the 9. Let me also say this, though, just a quick reminder, and we talked about this in the 6. We spent all day with them yesterday. Step Denver, you can still help them exceed their goal by going to coloradogives.org/stepdenver, coloradogives.org/stepdenver. A fantastic organization. We talked a lot about them in the 6. You can still make a difference for them. Hey, my thanks, by the way, to Danielle Jurinski and Micheline Ishay. Fantastic hour about Israel, Aurora. When we come back, we're going to get to know more about Gay Ribble, the real estate market, maybe even answer your questions. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Hey, George Brauchler here. It's 9 o'clock. It's the last hour of the Hump Day Show. Just 2 days left after this until we get right into that wonderful weekend. Of course, you've heard the prognosticators say snow in 2 days, that Friday is going to be 30 degrees colder as a high, than the high today, 67 down to 37. Listen, I had been pumping and very excited to pump the appearance of Gay Ribble inside the studio here. As it turns out, we're going to end up doing that. And this hurts because I wanted to get her in before the holidays. Turns out we're going to end up doing Gay Ribble sometime in January. Billy, does that sound right? Billy's giving me the thumbs up and a little bit of the middle finger, but mostly the thumbs up that we're going to have Gay Ribble in here in January. So if you were sticking around for that, and that was the only reason I was sticking around for this hour was that, but it does get us back to this topic. We had Aurora City Councilwoman Danielle Jurinski on. She is everyone's worst nightmare, especially if your everyone is somebody trying to screw the constituents of Aurora. And that's what it sounds like happened here. Billy, I didn't ask you to do this because I'm not really thinking straight. But if you go out there and find that Kyle Clark piece that she's talking about, that I guess was engendered by her revelation last Friday, I'd love to play some of that too. But if you didn't listen to the interview, go back to the podcast and do that. We had Danielle in the last segment of the show, or the second to last segment of the show. But what happened is Danielle's got a bunch of businesses. That's one of the things that makes Danielle a great member of city council is she's not just a mom and a taxpayer. She is a tax generator. She is an entrepreneur who owns several restaurant bars and all this other stuff. Well, one of her cooks was booted out of their extended stay hotel with their husband and whatever pets they have, not because they did something wrong or they didn't want to stay there any longer or they refused to. None of those things. And by the way, isn't that frigging laugh out loud funny that you've got these left-wing socialist nut jobs representing Denver under the Gold Dome, the people that are the pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas types, and they're out there thundering away for renters' rights, and we want to fight eviction and the displacement of the families. And then the city turns around after having said, we are a sanctuary city, which Aurora is not, saying we're a sanctuary city, inviting in immigrants. They get their wish, busloads of them from, I don't know, Texas, Florida, just the border itself. And then they turn around and apparently, and I'd love to get to the bottom of this with Mayor Kaufman, what was told to him, they mislead Jason Batchelor, who is the city manager for Aurora, as well as the mayor about what they're going to do. And they swoop in, rent out an entire extended stay, not for American citizens, but for immigrants who I don't know if they're legal. I don't know if they're refugees. I mean, there are a bunch of texters who are like they're illegal. I don't know that. If you can prove that to me, or I'm happy to report that. I don't know it, so I'm not going to presume it. And even if we don't think that they are entitled to be here for an extended stay, if the president grants them certain refugee status, well, that's it. I mean, we're stuck. You can call them illegal. It just factually isn't true. But nonetheless, displaces all of these folks, 40 families is what Danielle said, in exchange for folks that 5 weeks ago weren't even in the country. It's outrageous. I don't think it's illegal, but honestly, I'm pissed at Denver for doing this, and I really do want to get Mayor Kaufman on the phone here. If you know him, reach out to him. I want to get him on the phone to talk about this. But I'm also pissed at the Quality Inn people, the extended stay people. They didn't have to do this. You know what it was? It was the mighty dollar. And I presume that's where Kyle Clark goes with his piece. But my guess is Denver showed up and said, hey, we'd like to rent all of your rooms for X numbers of days. We'll give you cash on the barrel, but you got to give us all the rooms. And so extended stay did what extended stay can do. And that is they don't have, I think, a long-term contractual obligation with these people. And so they kicked them out chasing the mighty dollar. Now that they're starting to sense that this may not look very good for us making this decision. Now they reach back out to the people they displaced and said, oh, we'll give you a week's free rent. How about a month free rent? How about Billy has found the Kyle Clark piece. How long does it run, my man? It's 3 minutes. Let's see what we got out of it. Let's see what we got. We can always drop out of it, but let's see what it's like.
Denver's approach to sheltering migrants so they don't end up on the streets is actually pushing other vulnerable people onto the streets. Our Mark Salinger takes us to a hotel in Aurora where the folks living there for months were told to get out because Denver wants the rooms for migrants.
At a Quality Inn in Aurora, there's not enough room for everyone. The hotel is full with 400 migrants now living here. People like Luis Ortega arrived in Colorado 5 days ago.
Porque no consigo empleo, no hay empleo y que me vayan a sacar y el frío que hace aquí es horrible.
His room and everyone else's is paid for by the city of Denver. After 14 days, Luis will be kicked out of the makeshift migrant shelter. He says he doesn't have the money for an apartment and will have to sleep on the street.
Si necesito un trabajito para conseguir un apartamento, algo.
Es difícil.
Es difícil, sí, señor.
At this hotel, Denver's problems are on full display, where homelessness and the migrant crisis intersect. People like Joe Saceda are left in the cold.
Our family, basically, we've been sleeping in the car for a couple of days.
When Denver leased the hotel for the migrants, the hotel kicked out people like Joe. He says he'd lived at the Quality Inn for almost a year. His room key is no longer useful, as he sleeps in his 97 Lincoln with his partner and dog.
I don't think it's fair at all. At all, because where do I go?
Joe feels he was pushed into homelessness by a city desperate to solve that same problem.
Why are we taking precedence over hardworking people that have been living here and are citizens of Aurora? Why are they pushing us out?
Now his room
It was home.
is someone else's.
Quiero trabajar, sí, señor.
As the people now living there prepare to become homeless themselves when their time in the shelter runs out.
Me dieron 14 días, exactamente, y ya llevo como 5 días.
The city of Denver says they didn't ask the owner of the hotel to kick anyone who was living there out of their rooms to make space for the migrants. That was up to the individual owner of that hotel. Reached out to them, but didn't hear anything back, Kyle.
Man, that is one, thanks to 9 News for covering that, and double thanks to the fly in the ointment, everyone's worst nightmare, Danielle Jurinski, Aurora City Councilwoman, for bringing that to light. First off, you just have to love Jurinski. I mean, my goodness, man, when she sees a wrong out there, she just comes right forward and is like, what the hell is going on? I just love that. I mean, anyways, breath of fresh air. We need to keep her involved in governance at some level. But how offended are you by this? Think about what Denver and this Quality Inn is, and I don't want to let the Quality Inn off the hook. The last thing that Salinger said, by the way, great investigative reporter. The last thing he said was, hey, it's the individual owner of that hotel that made that decision. Well, that guy or gal has got some explaining to do. Why in the world would you do this? The guy that they interviewed, there was some subtitles there and some other things that went on. This guy was given 14 days because of the city of Denver doing this thing. How pissed off are you about this? Or is this much ado about nothing? Listen, what they've done is they've created homelessness. Denver created homelessness. Are they going to, and here's the thing, it doesn't count against their numbers. Remember, Mayor Mike Johnston, who I don't know when we're going to get Mike back on, but I'd love to talk about this thing with him. When Mayor Mike Johnston has said, hey, we're going to bring 1,000 people off the streets into housing, some type of sheltered environment, whether it's the micro communities or these other hotels in Denver by the end of the year. Time's running out, right? I mean, we're at 25 days before this thing happens. It's December the 6th. So this doesn't count against him. It actually probably helps his numbers. Oh my God, we got a busload of immigrants that we begged for when we said we're a sanctuary city, but we've got no place to put them anywhere here in Denver. And if we use our hotel space, I can't get the actual homeless off the streets. So they make the decision, and I want to know who it is. If it wasn't Mayor Johnston, who on his staff or in the city government made this decision? Did he know about it? If he didn't know about it, how quickly can you fire the person that made this decision? Because now they've just deported them from Denver to Aurora. And in the process, displaced actual working, tax-paying members of Aurora. This is outrageous. What do we do about this? I mean, this is one of the natural consequences of this permissive, we don't care how you come to the country, we're just going to throw our arms around you kind of a community. You beg for illegal immigration, you beg for refugees, you get truckloads of each, you lose the ability to care for your own people, and then you push it off on other cities. This is another one of the great issues with Denver. And this isn't a Mayor Mike Johnston issue. This is one of the great issues with Denver. Their crappy policy decisions cause problems for everyone else surrounding them. I mean, I got to tell you, man, that there's a way to do a heat map of crime in Arapahoe and in Douglas and in Jeffco and Adams. I'm willing to bet a significant portion of the property and violent crime that takes place in those judicial districts was born of people who are moving out there from Denver. I don't mean moving permanently. I mean traveling out there from Denver. And they're still on the streets because Denver refuses to lock up criminals. That's my guess. I'm telling you, at some point in the near future, some executive of district attorney's offices out there is going to have the temerity to sit down, crunch those numbers, and make a big deal about it, and ask Denver to fork over cash to pay for the jail space, the prison space, and to make victims whole from all the victims they're creating. And right now, these folks out of the Quality Inn at Aurora, at Abilene, in Mississippi, they're not victims of crime, but they are victims of Denver. They are victims of Denver. Now, some out there are going to say, well, George, what are we supposed to do with the immigrants? I don't know, and I don't care. Of the options available for taking care of the people you begged to come to your city, one of them can't be displacing and unhousing people from another city. How can that be the right answer? This is scandalous. I appreciate Kyle and Mark putting this thing together on 9 News. I really do. But this is scandalous. What is the answer? How do we solve this problem? If you're like, well, we just got to stop taking, that's Denver, man. We can't change Denver. Denver is in love with illegals. Denver's in love with refugees, I guess only when they show up at the right time. But if they show up in the middle of an effort to try to get the unhoused housed, they're a thorn in the side. We got to move them on to, let's pick Aurora. Craziness. You know, the part that I really want to know about here, and during a break, I am going to reach out to Mayor Mike Kaufman, see if I can't get him on here to talk about this thing. This is bonkers. Here are some of the texts coming in. I presume that's Mayor Mike. He said he'd take 1,000 people off the street. He didn't say he wouldn't trade them out for different homeless people. That's a great point. Here's one. I live in Aurora, and I want these people out of this city back to Denver. And if they don't like it, they can go back to the country they came from. I want to be careful here and not make this blame the immigrants thing. I mean, think about how is this their fault, right? I mean, other than coming into the country through some broken immigration system, and I'm going to presume, and I could be totally wrong, I'm going to presume these people are all here under some sort of amnesty, refugee type asylum thing that took place, like we saw when 710 went down to the border in El Paso in February. Do you remember that? We saw a long line of people who were just simply announcing, I'm here from Venezuela. And they got their papers and were allowed to stay here until their upcoming court date some years later. So this could be them. If that's them, can't blame them, right? We've done it to ourselves again. Can't blame them. But you can blame Denver. You can blame Quality Inn. And if you know somebody that owns or works at that Quality Inn, you got to get them to call in here. And of course, they'll never do that, by the way. What were you thinking? Why did you displace tax-paying legal residents of Aurora in exchange for these folks? Why did you do that? Super offensive. But I don't want to turn this into the blame the immigrants thing. When we put out a welcome mat, people walking over that welcome mat can't be blamed, man. That's what we're doing to ourselves. Doesn't mean we have to support them or I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is the city grabbed them up and moved them and put them in a place to stay inside with their family. What would you do? Right? we're doing this to ourselves. And now Denver's doing this to Aurora. Here's our friend Alexa. New York City did something similar in the last year or so and kicked veterans out of a hotel in exchange for illegal immigrants. I don't know what law you can pass to address this, but what? Here's another.
I'm sorry. Point of information.
Go ahead.
If it's the veteran story that I'm thinking of, that is not true.
What happened in the New York City thing?
It's not true. What happened was that a woman came out who was an activist and said that veterans and a veteran population that she works with were kicked out of hotels. And the problem is that when reporters went and dug and started asking questions of the hotels, the hotel said, we don't have any record of those people staying here. We have no record of this veteran. And then when they go back to the organization and asked for proof of residency where they were staying, they couldn't prove any. And when the reporters finally tracked down some of the veterans that were cited in the story, the veteran said, oh, yeah, I was paid money to say this story.
What?
To say that. Yeah. So
by
again,
who paid them? That's crazy.
The activist group. So again, that story about the veterans being kicked out of a hotel in New York, again, that is not true, and it did not happen. Not drawing any political conclusions or anything else. I'm just telling you, factually, it did not occur. That didn't happen. Okay, I'm going to go sit in my corner.
No, I appreciate hearing that, man. I love the corrections on the facts. Either way, I just want to hear these things before they become reality instead of, it sounds like a little bit of myth here. Listen, I independent of whether that part of the story is accurate, the theme here seems to be real. And that is, we have one city who's created, based on their own permissive approach to immigration, they've created their own problems, and now they want to export those problems to other cities. It's incredibly offensive. I also don't want to let Quality Inn off the hook. Billy, I don't know. Can we find the Quality Inn and ask if they'll come on the radio, just so we can at least say we asked them to see if they'd come on the radio?
Yeah, sure, but they're going to say no.
No, that's okay. I just want to give them the opportunity to tell the public, you should still like us and view us as a quality brand worth your money, because this is ridiculous. And I'm concerned for their safety now too. Not physically. I'm concerned for their business safety when you've pissed off the fly in the ointment / your worst nightmare, Danielle Jurinski. Because she'll get to the bottom of this. And then I hope she comes back on and tells, give us your thoughts on this, would you? I'd love to hear about this. I worry sometimes that when I get a little exercised over something, it's just me. 303-696-1971. What do you think about this, and what should be done about it? Before we cut away for a break, can I talk to you just a little bit about my teeth? No, they're not in the way today. My misspeaks today have got to be the product of multiple nights of a lack of sleep or something. But I feel like I've gargled and bathed and drank cough syrup now, because I can see words in my head, and then I start to talk and I sound like I'm the president or something like that. But those teeth are precious commodities. They are part of a mouth that is the gatekeeper for my health and you for yours. Everybody has it. If you're listening to this call, by the way, and you don't have a dentist, stop right now and call Twin Aspen Dental at 303-841-7466. But I presume you do have a dentist. If you're not seeing them twice a year, stop what you're doing and pick up the phone and call 303-841-7466. And quite frankly, even if you have a dentist that you see twice a year, if it's part of these big national chains of whatever, where they've got the dancing teeth on the outside or whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. I'd rather you go see them than nobody, but you have an option. Okay. You have an option to upgrade to Twin Aspen Dental. I've been lucky in that every time I've been in there, I got to see Doctors Richter and Snyder, other than when Dr. Snyder was out on the baby stuff. And Shiloh has been my dental hygienist. She's fantastic, man. And in fact, one of the texters that texted in, hey, my wife is going to go see them. This was earlier this week. This could have been Monday or something like that. I am anxious to hear how the experience was. So text back in and let me know. I already know how it's going to go, because it was awesome for me, and I'm sure it'll be awesome for you as well. Give these folks a try. And here's the risk to your current dentist. When you go try Twin Aspen Dental, you're going to stay with Twin Aspen Dental. Check them out at twinaspendentalcenter.com, twinaspendentalcenter.com. You can also go check them out in person off of about Parker and Stroh Road, right by Lehman Academy. So easy to get to from any direction. That's Twin Aspen Dental Center. When we come back, your texts, your calls. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Denver is recruiting immigrants to come to their city and then displacing Aurorans by shipping them into their extended stay motels. What do you think about that? 303-696-1971, going right to the phone lines. Ruben, you're on 710. What do you think, sir?
Yes, George, this is just a side story that I heard about the day before yesterday. It was on Fox afternoon news reports that there's a program that is providing medical service for those coming over the southern border, possibly other places, that they are being serviced medically.
Who's paying for the stuff? Who's paying for the medical stuff?
Well, in association with the VA, but the VA is
VA.
But this person is saying the VA is not actually doing the medicating or the health issues. What they are doing is that they're sending them to a program that VA has called Mission, and basically I'm using that service of the VA. And what it is that my doctor is not on the premises of VA, but is okay to assist veterans with again medical problems.
What do you think about all that?
I guess the representative of the program explains it that way, but I guess I would probably fall back on the adage of follow the money.
Well, okay, so follow the money. What is that in your mind? Where will that lead?
Well, I'm thinking that it's possibilities that it's probably the other way. The VA is probably associated with it opposite to what this person is saying.
When you hear about things like that, how does it make you feel? Are you favorable towards it? Do you think that I like where their head is, but I don't want the VA a part of this thing? What about the stuff out of Aurora? What do we do with the immigrants that we have, whether you and I agree with it or not, we've begged to come here?
That issue has to be dealt with. I think that if I follow the immigration programs that we have in place as far as being eligible for it, I would probably agree with that. There's a process in place. It needs to be followed.
Even if we follow the process, what do we do with these folks? I mean, again, I'm not a fan of how the Biden administration has handled immigration or who gets to claim asylum and all this other stuff, but they've done it, right? So that sort of puts these immigrants in a position to say, look, we just did what you told us we could do, and we have this legal status that you've given to us. Are we on the hook for finding housing for them, or should we just say good luck?
I would probably say that, good luck.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there that feel that way, Ruben. Hey, thanks for the phone call, man. And I appreciate the insight, too, on the VA stuff. I'm a bit offended, not surprised, but I'm a bit offended about all these other government agencies out there siphoning tax dollars away from Americans and those who were here before we went down the road of lottie-dottie, everybody from certain countries can just show up and we'll take them in. I mean, what do we do with them? I mean, in my mind, I don't know what the right answer is here, because having invited them in, and I'm just presuming that's who's on these buses. It could be illegals, folks, okay? It could be, but let's just pretend for a moment it's folks that have answered the call from the Biden administration. If you are from or claim to be from Venezuela, or Argentina, or any country you name, it doesn't really matter what the country is. You come here, we're going to grant you asylum status. One, who wouldn't make that trek, right? So, but they do it. And then they come in and we say, yay, and here's your legal status and all this. What should our response be? I think Ruben is speaking from the emotion of most people out there, and that is good luck, man. Good luck. Figure it out now. We're not on the hook for housing you, but play this thing out. So Denver doesn't provide them anything. There's not a law in the world that would keep them from saying, well, I'll just go to Aurora on my own. Now, granted, they couldn't en masse, I think, displace everybody from the Quality Inn. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But that homeless issue could be a homeless issue for the cities surrounding Denver. And what do we do with that? We've invited these folks in. They answered the call. We've granted them special status. And now we just say, well, suck it. Go figure it out now. Maybe that's the answer, but what do you think happens after that? Do you think they go, well, this seems so inhospitable, I'm going to return to Venezuela, Argentina, Chile, name any country? I don't think so. I'm not sure that's how it turns out. I think, though, that the folks that want us to just grant mass multi-jillion people amnesty for the immigrants here, those are the people that know that, listen, man, we're just going to pressure cooker this thing. We're going to let more and more of them in. We're going to create more problems for more cities. We know employment's going to ultimately be an issue. Housing is a current issue. And we're going to get to the point where we say these people are on your dime, taxpayer, because you won't let them work. You won't encourage them to be here lawfully and get a lawful job and participate in the economy above board. And that's why they're in this position where they need the city to take care of them. And then they're going to tell us, well, this is how we save a bunch of money. You can see this coming. Now, do I think it's some grand conspiracy? No. Do I think it's something that's pretty easy to follow in terms of what's the end goal here? I do. I think that the what am I going to say? How about this? The anti-citizen folks out there that want to make citizenship for everyone so that it ultimately means nothing. The erase the border people, they know that once you let someone in, the chances that we're going to then send them out are greatly reduced. Especially when you give them a court date years down the road and they get ingrained in the community and they make babies and those babies get made in a way that they're American citizens. And now what do? They know that. They know that right now is their best opportunity to flood the zone, to get as many in as possible. And right now, what the Dems are trying to do is to gauge whether or not they can weather the political storm that grows from it. And I think they're starting to feel a little bit of heat. What's intriguing to me is that we were allowed to be a sanctuary city for so long without really any repercussions because people like the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, weren't busing people up to Denver. And Ron DeSantis wasn't busing people up to Martha's Vineyard. Now it's happening. Now we're being bused. And I think the Biden administration's jumped on board. They're busing them up here to other parts of the country. And what they know is when we create this problem nationwide, it will be a lot harder to answer with scoop them up and deport them. They know that. This is just crazy, though, that right here in our own Denver and Aurora, we're starting to see the impact of this on regular old Americans, hardworking, tax-paying Americans. We are unhousing them in exchange for the immigrants. I'd love to hear what Representative Javier Mabry says about this. This is a guy who champions himself as an attorney for the little guy. He's been doing battle on behalf of renters and residents who are facing displacement all the time, but he's also part of the party that says citizenship is irrelevant. Now what? Now what do? Who are you championing now? The immigrants that come here that displace the Aurora citizens or the Aurora citizens? Whose side are you taking in this, man? 303-696-1971 is the number. Getting texts that are coming in here. Denver's actions show the government hates Americans. This has been going on for 2 generations and is ridiculous. Send migrants home. Pakistan deported 2 million Afghans. This is really crazy. But in all other social things, when it comes to tolerance and culture and changing the law, everybody points to countries away from America and go, look at this. America's out on its own on this, and this is what Europe is doing with that and the abortion and the this and the that. But you know what you never hear them say? You never hear them say, we should have the same immigration policy as Pakistan or even Mexico, for God's sake. They never say that because other countries actually protect their borders and they deport people. Try overstaying your visa in Germany, American. See what happens there. See how tolerant Germany is with you. Yeah, this is just craziness. 303-696-1971 is the number. Let's get to the phone lines again. Lewis from Aurora, you're on 710. Lewis, what do you think about all this?
Brother, I live in Aurora, and our city council and mayor have worked very hard to put a cap on our crime and homelessness, okay? We don't need Denver's affliction on us. They need to take these people, and to me, they're illegals. I don't care what kind of lipstick you want to put on it. They're illegals. Put them on a bus, take them to Mike Johnson's house, and drop them off there and say, hey, Mike, you house these people in your house. You take care of them. Our city council and mayor have worked very hard to clean up our city and keep it decent. We don't need Denver's affliction on us.
I agree with you. I don't know if the answer is to drop them off at Mike's house, although I do think the question could and should be asked, like, put your residence where your mouth is. I mean, if you're talking about welcoming these people here and they're now part of the community and we have this moral obligation, Lewis, I think it makes a lot of sense to say, maybe you open up your house to them. You got a spare room? Hell, you even have an unfinished basement. That's got to be better than the street, right? Like, maybe this is where we got to go.
Or let them camp out on his yard.
Tents on a yard sound great. How about the backyard too? I don't even know if he has a yard. And again, I don't want to make this all about Mayor Johnson because I do leave open the possibility that he didn't know about it until after the fact. He's got to know about it now. But I'd be interested to know, were you part of the decision-making process? If you weren't, do you support the decision-making process? And for Denver to be like, oh, we didn't do anything, it was the Quality Inn. That's not true. But for Quality Inn to walk away from this unscathed, that's not true either, man. Like, would you ever go to the Quality Inn after you know they did this to Aurora citizens?
Well, and the thing is, if somebody in his administration did this, wouldn't it have to go up to him to get his approval?
Maybe.
Come on.
And again, maybe this got told to him beforehand. I'd love to know if it did, but I could also see bureaucrats at the city level below him saying, let's just do this. Let's just make this decision. And then when the, when the immigrant hits the fan, and in no way am I making that a pejorative. I'm saying when that immigration issue hits the fan, all of a sudden the mayor's like, what the hell have we done? And then they tell him, but so what's the corrective action? Will the Denver mayor make a pledge that says, I will never do this again? Would they do that? And if not, why not?
Right. Excellent. Yeah. And for Jurinski's chef, if they need help, I'm willing to donate.
Oh, that's so nice. And I know Danielle's listening and stuff like that. We had Alexa and some others say, hey, how can we help? I know Danielle will use us if there's an opportunity to do good. Lewis, thanks again for this phone call, man. I hope you're having a great holiday season. Lewis's line is open at 303-696-1971. I'll get to Ken and the others in just a moment. I got to cut away for a small break, but not until I tell you about that experiential gift you can give a loved one. It could be a dude, okay? But just like advanced hair restoration could be for women, but it's really targeted towards men. This Beau Visage thing, and I've done it, and it's fantastic. This Beau Visage spa thing, it's really about the women you care about in your life, right? Like whether it's a wife, a girlfriend, a daughter, mom, whatever. Yeah, you can give them another, gift that sits on a shelf or gets taken to Goodwill or gets talked about when you pull it out of a box in 10 years. But you can also give them an experience right now, the kind of experience where their life just feels better after it's over. And that's Beau Visage. Beau Visage Skincare and Spa. Every season do this. They do a half-day spa. You don't have to do the half-day thing. You can do the a la carte thing. Go online, check it out at Beau Visage, bvspa.com. See what they have to offer. You can get the certificate from them. Pay for it. Give it to that loved one. Watch their face light up, man, as they're like, oh, my God, I get a half day to just me, for just me. That's the kind of gift where they say, this was the best thing that happened to me this Christmas. Thank you for doing it. The half-day spa treatment, and they do all the European stuff and the massages and the facials and everything else. But they also do a catered lunch for this. It's a fantastic gift. Pursue it, but only for the people you love, okay? 303-779-5002, 779-5002 or bvspa.com. When we come back, Ken, the other callers, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll them out shelves. Your clutter transformation experts create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll them out shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll them out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. I mentioned them in the last hour, but let me just get through it then and tell you the other gift you can give is to yourself. Actually, I guess you could do this for a guy in your life that you know is struggling with hair loss. And when I say struggling, it's not quite a health issue, but it certainly is a mental health issue. And that is some folks some dudes just don't feel as confident when they start losing their hair. There were a lot more hats. You could go the direction my brother went, just shave it all off. But there is an option. It's an option that works, guaranteed to work. Our friend, Dr. Tanya Pauls at Advanced Hair Restoration. And you can find the website with all the information you'd want before you make the call to ask other questions. That's advancedhair, HAIR.com, advancedhair.com. These are the folks that figure out a way to put your hair back in the place it should be to begin with and grow it again. You get that. Well, I imagine what Art Acevedo, chief of Aurora, had back when he was at State California CHIPS Highway Patrol. And that is Ponch-like, thick, luscious hair that not just looks good, but it makes you feel better and more confident about yourself. Yeah, you deserve a gift this year. Why not get one for yourself? Or if there's another guy in your life that could benefit from it, give them a call. Next day is when you start seeing results right away. And if you call them today, 720-459-HAIR, 720-459-HAIR, you'll also have the opportunity to get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. 250. Give them a shot. We're going to go right to the phone lines right now. Ken, you're on 710 KNUS. Ken, what do you think?
Well, I wanted to lay out a few points.
Sure.
That precede what we see with the illegal immigration problem.
Okay.
You know, when you look at Mexico alone, they're the 15th biggest economy in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I love to go to Mexico. I love Latins. So I don't want anybody calling and saying, oh, this guy Ken, he's a hater.
Yeah.
No. I actually prefer their culture.
Really? Why?
Oh, yeah. Well, they're more family oriented. They're conservative generally with their values. Their women are much more amicable as far as relationships, marriage, emotional availability. It's sort of the Latin way. And when you look at that against the backdrop of feminism, you know, if you to look at it to use the analogy of being a consumer or somebody in the relationship area, where do I go to get the best relationship for me?
Online.
And I prefer their culture.
Oh, there go. Yeah, that's what I meant too. So what do we do about all this stuff, man? I mean, you hear this story. What do you think?
Well, I think that the border itself, I'm not opposed to immigration. Of course, everybody's pretty much an immigrant. I think we just need to regulate the border. And I don't know why that's a bad idea. I mean, you look at Europe, they've got almost every country has had a history of drawing the line and saying, this is our border. This is our port of entry. This is where you show your ID. And I don't have a problem with that. And no, we're not taking immigrants, or yes, we are. And some of it should be a little bit way more screening. It should be country specific. It's like, well, if you're from Yemen and you're a refugee and you can prove that, and they'd say, well, they didn't have any paperwork. We just got to take it at face value. Well, what if they're a terrorist? Do we take that at face value that they're not? I mean, if I get pulled over by the police, they want to know, hey, who are you? What's your name? Let me see your license. Where are you going? Yeah. So why aren't we doing those basic things to provide for the national security of the country, the economy, so we don't have welfare problems? So I think it starts at the border. And the problem with the border is, if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk. So people come in here and there's been,
frankly, Ken, that is a great book reference. If you give a mouse a cookie, and I get it. I get how it fits here. I hadn't thought about that before. Thank you for the call, Frank and others. I'm sorry, we just ran out of time. If I take you, it would be to just say hi and bye. That's not fair to you. Let's keep this going tomorrow. My thanks to Danielle Jurinski, to Micheline Ishay, to my God, everybody that we had call in and text. Stick around. We'll do it again tomorrow. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.